Today's episode of the Failing Justice podcast is brought to you by Carlson Solutions, a private investigation firm located in Dallas-Fort Worth and East Texas. We specialize in a wide range of investigations, including background checks, surveillance, defense case investigations, and more. For professional, discreet services you can trust, visit us at carlsonsolutions.net.
This episode of the Failing Justice podcast contains language that can be harmful or offensive to some. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Yo, failing justice, a movement on the rise. Former law enforcers now breaking ties. Unique perspectives where commitment lies. Upholding justice against the lows and highs. From the beat to the streets, we pave the way. Challenging the system every single day. No acceptance of the status quo, we say. This is failing justice. Let's slay.
Welcome to the Failing Justice podcast. I am your host, as always, Justin Carlson. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for tuning in. It is the first podcast of 2025, and I am particularly excited to get the new year started. Had a great year last year. A lot of good shows, a lot of good people, a lot of good stories told, and I'm really excited about 2025 and where things are going to lead. I do have to apologize ahead of time. I'm a little under the weather. My whole family's sick, and but I wasn't going to miss doing this podcast, and so luckily we were able to do it remotely. So forgive my nasally sound, but no, I'm super excited about this one. This guest has a story. I got with me JohnJay Portillo with me today. Some of you may or may not know him. If you live in Texas, you probably have heard of him. He's well known by many, but it's through the headlines that you know him. And but I don't think you really know him. So John has, he got indicted by the Henderson County District Attorney's Office through an investigation done by TCOLE, which is the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. They did an investigation on him. He was the chief of police in Coffee City. But I want John to be able to tell a story. I want everybody to get to know him, know his career. And there's some things that has occurred that I just think the general public, should know about. And you can kind of make your own assumptions and your own decisions after the fact. But I this platform is to give people the opportunity to come and to tell their stories. And so that's why I got John with me. John, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, how's it going, brother?
I appreciate you coming, man. I gave you a little introduction, but nobody knows themselves better than themselves. So I want you to introduce yourself. And I want you to kind of just tell us about your career, right? You're a former cop. You're going through some legal stuff right now, and we'll get plenty of time for all that. But tell us who you are. Tell us about your career, where it began, and where it ended.
All right. Well, basically, I've been law enforcement since 2006. Faithfully serving the communities that I've been appointed to serve and protect, like many law enforcement officers. Started my career in Harris County and just kind of went from there over the years, serving on different positions and as investigator and supervisory positions and stuff like that. Most recently took the job up there in Coffee City. Went in with a 3-man department and just did what I do. I'm also a business owner. I have a ministry that here in Houston where we serve the community, feed the community, Christmas gifts, turkeys, all that good stuff. Just blessed by God to do what we got to do. And I'm going to be remiss if I don't. I should have started off with my favorite saying in the world is, to God be the glory, to God be the praise. Because no matter in what situation or what circumstance he has me, I always give him the praise and glory, whether good or bad situation that I am. So Sorry, God, I should have said that first. Like I always do.
So your faith is a big part of your life and in your journey
My
as
faith
well.
is my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going. A lot of people tell me you don't need to be a cop, you don't need to do this, you don't need to be a politician. You got a different calling, but I believe serving the people, serving the public is what I'm called to do. And in law enforcement, that's just something I'm able to do.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say the person's name because I didn't ask for permission to dime them out, but I've gotten you and I got introduced through a mutual friend, and great guy, by the way, and he actually used to work for you, and that's how I came to know you. And not that we just know each other really, really well. We didn't know each other at all before the friend introduced us, and just from the thing is about you, and I'm sure the audience may come to know while we're talking, is you're just I mean, you tell it like it is, man. You're very authentic, and sometimes you say I would say it like this. Maybe some people may describe it as rough around the edges, but really, I think that just translates into you don't really censor anything when you talk. And so I have actually come to appreciate that about you in our short time knowing each other, and also appreciate the fact that your faith is a big thing. So how many years total law enforcement do you have?
Well, from 2006 to 24, what is that? 16, 17 years, something like that.
Okay.
I'm bad. So, it's like I said, been able to faithfully serve with integrity throughout my career. And like you said, because I'm so straightforward and I call things for what they are, I tend to make enemies. A lot of times when you're vocal and you see officers having to go through injustices in a department and you call out their supervisors or the chief or the constable, you tend to get targeted, and you either fall in line or you don't have a job. And I've been a very blessed man over the years to where I'm not a cop because I have to be a cop. Being a cop doesn't pay my bills. And that's not trying to be arrogant. That's just because God has blessed me so much that being a cop is something I do because I want to do it. It's hence the reason I took the job in Coffee City, right? It was an opportunity for me to go and create a department that was good to go work for. People wanted to come work at Coffee City, not because Coffee City was such a sought after position. Is because they had administration there that would have their officers back, and there was no politics involved. My motto was: you come to your job, and you go home. You go make your money on your extra jobs, because we know our base salary as officers isn't much, and you don't embarrass the department or the city. And we're able to grow that department pretty quick because people kept saying, "Man, what are you doing up there?" I said, "Well, we're creating a department unlike any other," and that was it. Gave us the ability to grow the way we have. I mean, who wanted to drive 3 hours to go to work? In
Right.
Coffee City. There's hundreds of departments on the way up to Coffee City. But the problem is the administration and where law enforcement has ended up over the years is pretty toxic. You don't have people lining up at the academies anymore, because of the political thing. I always tell people, when I worked with Harris County, I was never worried about being shot or being taken out by a criminal. I wasn't worried about that. I was more worried about the guy standing behind me with a badge and a gun. And a lot of people are like, "Man, you can't say that." Well, hell, it's true, dog.
Yeah, you're right, bro.
If I got assigned a Tahoe and you wanted that Tahoe, next thing you know, I'm the biggest piece of shit in the world because they gave me the Tahoe, not you. And now you're trying to take me out just so you can have a better Tahoe. I mean, that's where law enforcement is.
You're absolutely right. And I mean, I can attest to that because people that know me and know my story, man, I went through the same thing. And it was always, yeah, dude, we went out on these raids. I mean, we go out on SWAT raids. I mean, you name it. We're taking some of the biggest criminals down in the region, in the country, and we're in some dangerous situations. But at the end of the day, it wasn't those guys. I mean, yeah, they were a concern, but the biggest concern is when you were done and you went and you went to headquarters, and you didn't know, man, who had your back and who didn't. It was like everybody was playing a game of some kind of board game, and they were just out for themselves. So, I mean, I can attest to that. Now, let's specifically Coffee City. What year did you go to Coffee City, and how did you land there? Tell me how.
Well, I mean, the way I ended up in Coffee City was the former chief became the mayor.
Okay.
And he had originally called me and says, "Hey, Portillo, I just became mayor. I'm looking for a chief. I'm working for Harris County, dude. I'm making six figures, every year with my extra jobs and my base salary. There's no reason for me to go to Coffee City, right?
Because I'm sure they don't pay very much."
Yeah. So, and I asked, I said, "What are you paying?" He's like, $35,000 a year. I said, $35,000 a year. I make that in a month, dude. Why would I go 3 hours and do that? So I kind of dismissed him. And several months went by, and me and Harris County, I love Harris County, dude. I love Harris County. Unfortunately, it went too far liberal for what we were doing in law enforcement, catch and release, and all this other stuff. So, I was kind of like losing, not faith in the system, but just not happy, just like a lot of officers here in Harris County, because judges and DAs were letting people out. Criminals were coming out the back door of the jail before we even finished our report, So I started getting there, and then we had a big snowstorm, and some of the officers, there's only one taco stand open, and some of the officers had to leave their assigned area because we're like, "Hey, dude, they got tacos. Come over here and eat." So everyone's like, "No, really? Yeah, come on over and eat." So they would go and grab some tacos, and you had a lieutenant that was a piece of shit, and basically wrote everybody up for leaving their area to go get something to eat. And they started suspending, and I think one guy even got terminated. So I spoke up, and I was like, "Hey, dude, this is bullshit. Where the hell are these guys supposed to eat? We're mandated to be here. There's no food. I mean, what?" And then the chief and the captain simply called me and says, "Hey, Portillo, we love you, dude. You're a big part of this organization. Everyone loves you in your contract, dude. You're the best of the best. But damn, dude, shut your damn mouth." And I was like, "Look, dude, I'm never going to shut my mouth, dude. I'm a grown man. If there's something that's not right, and y'all are acting like dumbasses up in chain of command, not only as friends, because these were longtime friends." I said, "But I'm going to call y'all out on it, dude, whether openly or in the office." And one of the captains simply said, "Look, Portillo, if you don't like it, go find your own department to run. And you create your department how you want to run it. But here you're going to do what you're told." So I simply said, "Okay," stood up, and walked out. As I'm walking out, I called the mayor in Coffee City and says, "Hey, Mayor." He's like, "What's up?" I said, "You still looking for a chief?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can I come see you?" He's like, "Yeah, come see me." So me and my wife went up to Coffee City, and, I fell in love with Coffee City. Beautiful on the lake, a little small town, and he just kind of laid it out there and says, "Hey, we don't have money. We have no infrastructure. We need a guy like you to build this department up." So after talking to my wife, she's like, "Look, if that's what you want to do it." Long story short, they ended up hiring me as chief, right? And I went in there and I started going after grants. I started getting vehicles from DPS. So I just grew that department. And, I made some hard decisions. I promoted people that other officers didn't like. And no one could understand it. But like I told them, I said, "Look, I don't promote people because I like them. I promote them because of their ability." And that kind of showed that it didn't matter who you were, what color you were, nothing. No matter what. If I thought you were supervisor material, you were going to be there to help grow this department. And that's where we ended up.
was having some issues with my mic. So now, real quick, obviously Coffee City is kind of the hot topic here. So I'm going to play this news clip real quick, which is kind of really what led us into where we are today. So I'm going to play it, and then I'll obviously ask you some questions.
I'm investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski. This investigation started with a tip from a KHEO 11 viewer just like you. The tipster said, hey, you have to check out this small town called Coffee City, Texas. It's hiring a ton of cops, and word has it, a lot of them have troubled pasts. So we pulled on that thread, requested a lot of records, and dug in deep. That took a while, and that journalistic journey led us to discover even more problems at this department. And in the end, our investigation got results. Just 2 weeks after our first story aired, the city council took swift and serious action. It fired the police chief and shut down the entire police force.
New tonight, a tiny Texas town of about 250 people has 50 sworn police officers on the force.
We're talking about Coffee City. That's up in Henderson County, some 3 hours north of Houston. They have one cop for every 5 residents. And what's more, Jeremy Rogowski discovered many of those officers have a history of problems wearing the badge.
On the banks of Lake Palestine, some 3 hours north of Houston, this dot on the map has quite a reputation among those who drive through.
They're everywhere. Literally everywhere.
They run back and forth, back and forth.
A lot of officers policing a very small number of people.
Only 249 people, says the sign on the edge of town. And when you add up all the full-time cops and reserves,
50 officers.
Good Lord, that's crazy.
If it's such a small town, why do we need so many? Makes no sense. Why do you need that many officers?
Coffee City hauled in $1 million in court fines last year for more than 5,000 violations officers wrote, the most in the state for a town its size.
But this isn't a story about a small town writing a bunch of tickets. You see, Coffee City is a magnet for troubled cops.
How do we know? KHEU 11 Investigates obtained personnel records from other police agencies and found more than half of Coffee City officers had been suspended, demoted, terminated, or dishonorably discharged from their previous jobs. A dozen were even criminally charged.
I was astounded to think that they've been hired by another agency.
Greg Freeman is a Sam Houston State criminal justice professor and retired Houston police captain.
I've never seen anything like that in my professional career, and I've seen a lot.
Their prior discipline ranges from excessive force to public drunkenness, untruthfulness, and association with known criminals. Criminal charges include DWI, theft, aggravated assault, family violence, and endangering a child.
If you knowingly are hiring an officer that has a very troubled past and history and has no business to be wearing a uniform, and it's a very, very precarious slope that city is engaging in by hiring.
This is the man who hired them. Chief JohnJay Portillo quadrupled the department's size since he took the job 2 years ago. He says to provide 24/7 coverage for the town.
Why would you hire so many people with all these red flags?
There's more to just what's on paper. And that's where I rely on my captain and my background investigators to go in and dig and say, hey, what's the truth behind this?
The chief says criminal charges were often dismissed, dishonorable discharges overturned. He claims most applicants hired got on the wrong side of agency politics.
If you go back to the totality of a lot of these officers' stuff, I would say 75%, if not more, they're being retaliated against from their agency.
Retaliate? Mm-hmm. Why would you take a chance, Chief?
I try to look at the good in everybody, and I believe everybody deserves an opportunity.
You give a lot of opportunities.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
The opportunity to wear a badge allows his officers to work extra jobs, which can mean real money, $50 an hour or more.
I mean, let's not hide it from anybody. They're making probably about $80,000 to $100,000 a year doing that.
And I asked Portillo directly, does he get a cut of his officers' extra job wages? Twice during our interview, the chief said no. The only money he makes from extra jobs is from the ones he works himself.
All right, so obviously, looking at that, I think anybody, I'll be honest, even myself, when I first saw that, I was like, holy shit, that doesn't look good at all. Now I know there's tons of backstory as to how it got there. The allegations and the stories circulating online about your tenure, what people think that you misrepresented on your applications. Let's start in order though. So there's so many things. There's the whole application thing. There's well, these guys got 50 reserve officers. So I want to talk about all that. So I guess first things first. Everybody, I mean, there's so much criticism. Everybody thinks that you purposely lied or omitted some things on your TCOLE personal history statement. And I think the biggest one that they were trying to drive home was that you had a DWI charge in Florida. But in your own words, obviously you have some rebuttal to that. Tell us kind of how that came to be. And
so basically, I don't know what year it was, 2001 or whatever. We're in Florida working the storms down there. I have a restoration company, basically going after hurricanes, clean up, do roofs and so forth. Pulled over, the guy thought I was drinking. In essence, I was just tired. Had been driving for 24 plus hours, trying to get ahead of the storm and not get wiped out by the hurricane, because it made a turn back up in the where we were trying to escape it from. Got stopped. The officer just had a bad attitude. I was tired, had a bad attitude, and just basically said, "You're drunk." I said, "Dude, I don't drink." I said, "I don't understand how you think I'm drinking." But long story short, I ended up in jail. Got a lawyer, did the same thing anybody else would. Got a lawyer. They did what they did. It was supposed to have been paid a fine, and then it was going to be expunged. Came back to Texas. 2 years later, 2 years, 3 years later, I decided I was going to get my peace officer license. Went in. They asked you, "Have you ever been arrested?" I put yes. And then arrested for what? I said it wasn't for DWI. I paid a fine for reckless driving, or it was a Class C type deal they have in Florida. Their laws are a little different. And I said, and then it was expunged. So then they ran my record. Obviously, right, you have to get the fingerprints and all that good stuff. And my record came back clean. 100% clean. My record's clean. There's no record when you run your CCH on it. There's nothing that says he's been arrested. It's 100% clean. They said, "You're clean, dude. Everything's expunged." I said, "So do I need to put it on my application?" No. If it's expunged, you do not have to put it on your application. It's like it never happened. I said, "Cool deal." Went through the academy, got my little license. They said, "Congratulations." Went to go work for Harris County. Never had a problem since. And and anyone in law enforcement knows that if you have an open warrant, anytime you go to the DMV to renew your license, it pops up. And we have that agreement with other states that says, hey, if someone has a warrant in your state, we do not renew their driver's license. So imagine from 2006 to 2023, I've been renewing my license every 4 years. Nothing's come up. I've been to several departments. I've been to 6 different departments where we did our fast fingerprints and all that. Nothing came up. So, how can they say I lied? Because if I knew there was a charge on my thing, that I would have went and took care of it right away. And somewhere the ball was dropped. Where, I don't know. I'm not trying to say who it was or what, but I know the ball was dropped somewhere. Whether it was from my attorney that I had at the time, whether the clerks, I don't know. But the point is, they're trying to say that I knew that I had all this and I was hiding it. No, because if everyone that's done my background looks at my CCHs, will tell you there's nothing on my criminal history. And so it's TCOLE's position is that even though it's expunged, you're still supposed to put it on your application. That they supersede federal and state law on expungements. And that's the argument that everyone's fighting with TCOLE right now, I believe, is that you guys cannot tell us that we have to put something on our application if it's expunged. And I'm not a lawyer. That's just our opinion. But what do you think?
Well, so obviously you're saying, I mean, if this was 2003, you said? Is that what you said?
2001, 2, or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
2001. So you went all these years because you got your peace officer's license in Texas in 2006. And here's my thing, okay? One, you thought it was handled. But even if, okay, let's talk about even if you were trying to lie about it, which it doesn't sound like you were. You go to all these agencies. Not only that, the state of Texas gives you a peace officer's license. And nobody says a word about it. So you have to look and say, okay, what about the, whatever it was, 15, 16 years that went by here and nobody said a word about it until this news story came out in Coffee City. Now, that's one thing that look, there's so much to unpack here, so much, and I got so many questions, but I think what we should do is talk about how the investigation unfolded, because, these people just didn't show up at your door for no reason. And there are things that took place to bring people to your door. And so let's talk about that. I briefly, full transparency here, I just got a brief rundown of John's story. I don't know the full story in depth, so I think I'll let you tell that. So I do know you were running for constable in Harris County, right?
Yeah, I signed up to run for Harris County Precinct 3 constable. And I said, you know what? I love it in Coffee City, but I need to come home. My wife wants me back home. I miss my kids, my grandkids, all that good stuff. So I said, I'm going to run again. I'm going to run for constable. Now, mind you, I ran for constable in 2020. Okay, I ran for constable in 2020. It was one of those deals where he's not going to win, so we don't give a damn about it type deal. I ran, didn't win, no big deal.
Well, and I'm going to interrupt you. Side note, this is my opinion. I mean, I think a normal person can come to this opinion. If you're going to run for an elected position, and running for an elected position, all your dirty laundry gets aired. Why in the world would you be hiding a DWI? I mean, that's just my...
Yeah, exactly.
That's just my initial thought. I mean...
But see, let me stop you. I've never hid it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if...
I've told the departments, and even the mayor of Coffee City, because he was my chief in San Felipe. And I even told him, when I was at Brookshire, I asked him, I said, hey, just want to clarify, do I have to put this on my app? And he says, no, do not put it on your app because it's supposed to be expunged. Do not put it on your app because it's like it never happened. Okay. So I didn't ever just not disclose it. And this is my biggest argument. They're saying I never told anyone about it. And that's a lie because I did tell people about it. And the number one question I say is, do I need to put this on there? Because I don't want you guys to say I'm lying. No, you don't got to put it on there. So.
Yeah, I know I kind of interrupted a little bit, but I just wanted to put that out there because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we all know no matter what kind of elected position you're running for in this, especially, in this time in our world, everything is out there, right? People are just looking to bring somebody down as if they don't have skeletons in their own closet. But my point was, like, if you're running for public office, I'm sure you're like, in your mind, you're probably not thinking, oh man, I hope they don't find out about this DWI because that would really ruin my career. Because why would you waste all your time running for public office? Like, you have it, but you probably don't even, it's something you're probably not thinking about, I'm assuming, if you've thought it was expunged and taken care of. So
to me, it wasn't even something I even considered.
I'll let you get back on track. So you were running for precinct 3. What year was that was happening?
The original time I ran was 2020. This next,
and then the last time,
this last one was 2024.
Okay,
that was this past election when Donald Trump was running.
Okay,
so
and then everything came crashing down at that point.
Well, I put my name. I during the sign up period, I didn't want to put my name on the ballot too soon. Right, I wanted to see who was going to run. I wanted to do it. So at that time, mind you, I'm chief of police in Coffee City, doing a great, wonderful job for the citizens of Coffee City. They love us. You know, a new mayor came in. We figured, well, he's going to clean house. He kept us on. He said, Chief, you're doing such a great job. You know, there's no reason why I should rewrite what you're already doing. He's like, stay on. I'd love to have you. All right, we stayed on. Continue to grow. Got more vehicles, got more computers, we started upgrading everything. They even gave me a raise. They didn't even ask for a raise. They gave me another raise, you know. So now I'm making $40,000 a year. Woo! But grateful for what they gave me, and just excited because you know better than anybody and anyone in law enforcement. If you're in a town and they get a new mayor, it's time for you to move on because the shelf life of a chief is 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's every time they get a new mayor, a new council, whatever, you pretty much clean house. So I'm chief of police. I have my reserve program. I have my full-time program. We're working an extra job in Harris County, right? Because obviously I live here. So when I come back to Harris County, I'm going to work some extra jobs, make some money. And we're working in an apartment complex. Apartment complex is like the worst part of Harris County, the worst crime that you could even possibly think. No one wanted to work it. HPD didn't want to work it. County didn't work it. Constables didn't want to work it. So the manager over there heard of me and says, hey, you got time to come by and talk. Went by and says, hey, would you be willing to work this complex and this? Long story short, we started working it, started cleaning it up. HPD was like, man, y'all crazy working this thing. So we're cops, dude. It's our job. He's like, yeah, but what they're paying you, hell no. Long story short, one day, one of my officers had a foot chase of the suspect. They chased him on foot. I jumped in my car, went over there, and this is the video they show on KHOU. So he's running. I get into my car. I go to cut him off. I knew where he was going because there's only one way you can run. Jump out my car, and he's running towards me, and he just, boom, hits me in my face, dude. Basically, I don't know how he didn't knock me out. But as soon as he hit me, I spun around. When I spun around, I grabbed his jacket and did a leg sweep and fell on top of him. I was almost knocked out because I don't remember my officers running up to me. They get him, they handcuff him. Guy had a warrant for sexual assault of a child. We take him back to the office. I call Harris County Precinct 2 constable to say, hey, just Chief Portillo, man, roll me some units. I just got the shit knocked out of me and I need help. We wait. Deputy shows up. Guy that I trained. So I was like, hey, I'm glad they sent my boy, man. At least they sent the right person. And he straight out told me, I'm not here to help you, bro. I'm here to tell you got to call HPD. And in my mind, just got the shit knocked out of me. You can see on the video my face is red. And in law enforcement, if you call me for some bullshit call like trespassing or some bullshit call, I'm going to be like, hey, bro, we're shorthanded. Can you do something? But when it's assault on a peace officer and the guy has an open felony warrant and the situation is, if I could book into Harris County and I had my GEMS code and all that information to do it, I would have simply told one of my guys, hey, transport him to the jail. We'll do all the paperwork. We couldn't do that. We're out of county. We don't have access to Harris County system. So that's why we had to rely on the constable's office and HPD to come down and help us. Dude tells me no. I was like, man, first of all, I know the lieutenants, I know the constable, I know everybody, you know. Let me get on the phone because once again, Chief Portillo knows everybody. He picks up the phone, I can start calling everybody. No one would answer me. So finally, the deputy that shows, he goes, hey, bro, it's not me, man. Chain of command tells us not to help y'all out. Now, how does that make one feel that just got the shit knocked out of them, being told that we're not here to help you?
And you got a perp sit there in handcuffs, waiting to try to figure it out.
Yeah, and so long story short is I made a comment. I said, you need to tell your chain of command to stop acting like little bitch-ass pussies. This is bullshit, dude. We're supposed to be brothers, man. When do you turn your back on your own, dude? This is why earlier I said I'm not worried about the criminal. I'm worried about the one carrying the badge. Because how do you make that decision not to help a fellow officer in need?
Yeah.
You know, and that's when I made the comment, you know, fuck your constable, dude. I said, he's going to have a hell of a time running in 24 because he no longer has my support. Because in 2020, I supported that dude 100%. Everybody I knew that lived in his precinct, personal friends of mine, dude. Hey, vote this guy in. Vote this guy in. Great fucking guy. Great, you know, and he won. And I was excited when he won. And then for them to turn their backs on us, that's why I made that comment. Well, apparently,
so you were that's the video that we all saw where you're sitting there. I think it was raining, and you're saying all that because that was the heat of the moment deal.
Well, yeah, and you know, we don't expect our own people to be. You know, I knew he was recording, dude. I didn't give a damn because once again, I speak my mind. I'm going to say what I got to say. I called the constable direct. I called the lieutenant direct. I called the other guy. There's two lieutenants. They're now the chief and captain now. But I called them and said, you know, like, hey, bro, like, what is this bullshit? But no one wanted to answer me because they know how I am. They know I'm going to say, dude, step up to the plate. Because if someone was working in Coffee City and my officer showed up and told them they weren't going to help them, that officer wouldn't be working for me because we do not turn our backs on our own kind. You know, our own brothers. Those are our brothers, man. And this thing where people think that the brotherhood is knit. There's no more brotherhood in law enforcement, dude. There's not.
It's not.
People are always out to take you out before the next one. And, you know, it's the truth. It's sad because I remember when I was a rookie, shit, dude, I used to do I used to mess up, you know, like hit a curb, bust a tire, and lieutenant show up and cuss me out and say, man, go get that fixed. Don't worry about it. You know, but now, hell, you leave a bag of chips in your patrol car and they're running to the captain saying, oh, look, he left a bag of chips in here, man. You know, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, it's bad, man. Everybody wants to, I don't know why it is that way. I mean, I guess the whole world's that way, but, you know, law enforcement is particularly very toxic because it's like people they will crawl over your busted, mangled body, metaphorically, to gain a position, to climb the ladder, dude. I mean, and all the cops that I've had on this show, we talk about that. Like, it is cutthroat, and I don't know if it's. I think inherently, like, whenever you're a cop, you have power, you have authority, and I think what happens, man, is that really just gets to people. Some people, well, obviously, we know everybody's not like that. We know there's cops.
It's that DEI, dude. It's that didn't earn it attitude, man.
Yeah.
This is where law enforcement is messing up because when I was a rookie, what was the first thing we got? The worst car.
Yeah.
The worst shifts and everything. You had to earn your way, dude. And when someone else got promoted, you had to have at least 5-6 years before you even could think about being a corporal. Now I see people that get straight out of the academy that go into these departments are in less than a month are sergeants.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to properly write a report. I'm not.
Yeah, you can't even do you can't even do basic policing, let alone, make administrative like solid decisions. It's
well, you have to earn it, dude, and that's the problem with today. But
so when that incident happened, going back to the whole thing at the apartment complex, were you hadn't put in to run yet, right?
No.
Okay.
So that department sent a letter to my mayor and says, "Hey, this has happened," and they sent the body cam video, and that was the first time I saw the body cam video, and the mayor was like, "Hey, man, let's talk." But I had already told them what happened because, once again, I'm very transparent. My mayor always knew what the hell I was doing and everything. And so I called him and told him I showed up, and he's like, "Let me show you this video." I showed the video. I said, "Hey, boss, I'm sorry." I said, "Dude, this is," he goes, "Man," he goes, and his exact words was, "Fuck them." He goes, "They need to be doing their job." I was like, "Well, once again, I apologize. I didn't mean to embarrass the city." He goes, "Well, don't worry about it." He goes, "I already told them that it's a personal issue between you and them, and if they don't like it, go talk to the apartment complex and not to have you out there working. But I'm not going to fire you because you cussed at somebody." I said, "All right." And it wasn't a citizen, it was another officer. But so after that incident, he replied to them. They replied back, "Oh, we're not trying to get him fired. We just want to let you know what kind of cop you have." And Mayor sent back a thing.
Yeah, we're not trying to get him fired. We just want you to know. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, of course they were trying to get you fired.
So Mayor responds to them, "We know exactly what kind of chief we have. That's why we have him, because he's aggressive, but he's fair, and he does a great job for us." And that was kind of the end of it. I went, spoke with the city council and apologized to them and said, "Hey, I know I didn't do nothing wrong, but if it shed any bad light on y'all," this was before the video was released now, and they're like, "Look, you're doing such a great job. Things happen. Just, try to be less rigid." So not a problem. So I guess the constable's office wasn't happy, right? They're probably saying, "Chief Portillo, man, just done disrespected us, called us little bitch ass pussies or whatever." I didn't call them bitch ass pussies. I said, "Stop acting like little bitch ass pussies. There's a difference." So after that, I guess they didn't like it, so they called their buddy at the news station, because the captain of that constable's office is good friends with the news people. They're buddies.
The captain of the
constable's office.
The constable's. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was this
So
they called the news station? Was this still before you decided to run?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is still before. So we started getting these open records requests, and we noticed that I was being followed by the news camera whenever I was in Harris County. So they showed up at my extra job, and finally I was able to snag them up and say, "Hey, why are you following me around?" Now, mind you, I'm working in one of the worst complexes in Houston. I've been targeted. We've been shot at. We have cars with bullet holes in them. This is how bad it is, right? So when I see this man following me around, I was finally able to get a tactical advantage where I can walk up and be like, "What's up?" "I'm with the news station." I said, "Oh, really?" And he's trying to film me. I said, you got a question, just call my office. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And that's where the communication with that news station is. So apparently they wanted to know why Coffee City was working in Harris County, and did we have any authority to be working in Harris County. And I told them, I said, if you read the little circle on my badge, it says state of Texas. And as long as the city gives us permission to work out of city, work wherever the hell we want.
And that's all dependent on policy, because I mean,
yeah, and I'm the chief and I write policy. So.
Right. And so I've worked for, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. They say, "Well, why is Coffee City? Why are they in Harris County working as cops?" And I've worked for departments. I hadn't been to a ton, but I think I've worked for 3 or 4 departments. Some departments I've worked for restricted it off-duty work to city only, and then I've worked for other departments who says, hey, you can work all the way up to Dallas, and then There's other departments who are very lenient with their policies, so their officers can make money, like yourself. And your policy was, I mean, I'm sure it had to be approved. It's something that I guess so. I mean, that's usually how it works. If you're working out of the city, you got to approve it, et cetera, et cetera. So that makes sense to me. I don't think that made sense to, and of course, when a news station's trying to lean one way, they're not going to explain that. And this is one of those key points that, I'm glad we're talking about it because, again, that's what this show is about, is just giving people the platform to tell this story, because people don't know, hey, as a cop, if your department policy allows you to, you can work wherever you want, as long as it's approved. And the reason for that is because, like you said, I mean, as a chief, my God, you're making $40,000. So, of course you're going to try to make extra money, at these other places. So I'm glad you brought that up.
So, and that's how the KHOU saga began. Then they started questioning me about my officers. Why does a town of 198 people need 50 officers, patrolling their streets? And of course, they don't show this on the news, right? They're not going to tell you and I'm going to tell you the explanation I told them. I said, we don't have 50 officers patrolling the streets at one time. I said, you're trying to make it like we have this police city where citizens can't leave their house because there's cops everywhere. I had 50 reserves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
50 reserves, 4 full-time officers. Okay, we're a 24-hour department. So you take 1 officer per full-time officer per shift. And then you add in a reserve. So now you got 2 people. And when we did the math, and I don't know if my math is good, but it came out to be 1.5 officers per shift because they overlapped. And that was because you can't be in, especially Coffee City, with all the meth and crime that we had when I first got there. The hotel was horrible. I mean, it was.
Dude, I live, I live on the border of Coffee. I can throw a rock. I'm still Smith County, but I can throw a rock and hit Henderson County, Coffee City. So I have known since I was a kid that Coffee City's a shithole. Pardon me. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody that lives there, but I mean, when I refer to it being a shithole, we're talking about the people that are there selling meth, dealing meth. It's a lake town, right? You have all those, how many, 5-6 liquor stores right there, just next to each other, and behind those liquor stores are boat ramps where people are just. I mean, it's a lake town, and
people don't realize
not a nice lake town. We're not talking about the Ozarks over here. It's not a nice lake town.
No, but what people don't understand is Coffee City is like that because the mindset of we're a small town, we can't really afford. Because remember, when they got rid of the game rooms and all that other stuff, their revenue source went away. And then all the liquor stores, there's only 3 left. And how much revenue are you getting from that? You don't have a business besides a Family Dollar, which is no longer there because they closed it down.
Well, I want to make another point too, John, that everybody from Smith County, right, drive to
Coffee City to buy
Coffee City. So you guys are. I mean, the I don't know what your DWI stats were over there, but I can only imagine the intoxicated drivers that blow through Coffee City. I mean, day in and day out.
Well, you got to understand, and not to get off track with the storyline, but when I got there, we're averaging 2 to 3 deaths a month in Coffee City of motor vehicle accidents and deaths. For a town of 198, and the news tried to say, "Oh, you don't." I said, "But what you don't understand, we have Highway 155. That's the way to get from point A to point B. And this is a 55-mile-an-hour zone. I've never seen a speed limit 55 miles an hour through a small town. But the way it was designed, that's the way it was. And people aren't doing 55, they're doing 85, 90. And we have to increase the traffic enforcement in order to get rid of the deaths. After the first year, we had an 80% drop in vehicle accidents. That means we had 1 death a year versus 3 a month.
I mean, and you guys were, I mean, y'all were doing work, and it wasn't, and that's one thing about the news story that I remember very distinctly, and you had already mentioned it, was, oh, well, this guy has, oh my gosh, there's 50. And I mean, they really emphasize 50. 50
well, I mean, but if you break it down,
100.
it's a half an officer extra per shift, and then they started saying, oh, we all are writing over $1 million a year in tickets. Yeah, but we don't get the $1 million. Let me tell you, we do not get the $1 million.
No, you don't.
Gets that $1 million.
You get a very tiny portion of it.
We get 20% of what we write.
Yeah,
20%. So we get $200,000 spread out over quarters. It's not like they say, well, here every month, here's a big ass check. No, that's
and buy 4 cars for your 4 officers, and then that's your that's it. Remember, and that's the thing. Like it made it sound like you guys were, I mean, just like
banking, like
overly.
We're the cartel, just writing tickets.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, we never wrote anything under 15 miles an hour. Unless you were in the city, then that was our 10-mile-an-hour zone, because we needed you to slow down, because people coming off of 315 on the 155 were getting T-boned left and right. But if you're, before you got into the middle section where the stores were, it had to be 15 and over. That's one thing I told my officers. We're not going to have a bullshit city writing 5 over. Don't let me see a 5 over ticket. If it's 15 miles an hour, do it. If it's failed to vacate lane when one of our buddies is on the side of the road, I don't care if it was Smith County, Henderson County DPS, if someone doesn't move over, grab them. Because I've had 2 officers struck because people weren't moved over.
Yeah.
So we enforced the important stuff. We didn't go after the bullshit. And a lot of times,
you guys popped me twice over there. I remember.
I already know who it was, but I ain't gonna say.
I remember one night, man, I was driving to Palestine, and I wasn't driving, I was flying. We had 5 people got shot in a.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And dude, I was flying, and I got popped that night. Look, I told them, hey, I'm detective. I got called in. They said, oh, you're good. And then another time, I got popped. And here's the deal. Both times, and this is my personal experience, and people know me. Here's the deal. I am in the middle just about on everything. And I lean to where my conscience goes. And so by me saying this, I can tell you through personal experience with Coffee City, and people know that I'm the first one to call cops out, man, if they're doing some BS. But my personal experience is that when I was going through Coffee City, and the 2 times I got stopped, I mean, I was hauling, and I got pulled over. And from what I could tell, I'll put some pictures up of us. I think y'all's Facebook is still up, so I'm going to put some pictures up here. Look at this stuff. I mean, like, you guys were getting meth. I mean, dude, you guys were doing some police work, and I knew some of your officers. Even when I left law enforcement and I started installing Christmas lights, I mean, I still knew some of your officers, and I saw them out there getting the job done. But the news seemed to portray you guys as 50 officers. Oh my God, they're just out here flooding the streets. We can't do anything. And of course, they find, a couple of the citizens that completely hate your guts.
Those are the ones that we probably arrested for meth. And
to do their interviews, like, oh yeah, they're just out here all the time stopping people. And it's like, well, that's their job, Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's what I think a lot of citizens understand. That incident you had, I don't know if that was the same one that ended up back in Coffee City where we snagged up the 2 shooters at the thing, but
it may have been. I don't remember, but
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
something
but-
about that, but I don't
Yeah, they
remember
ended up
that
back in
particular
coming in
night.
Coffee City, and guess who stopped them? Coffee City, because we're
Yeah.
always out there running traffic, keeping our citizens safe. But what people don't understand is this: criminals don't walk to and from crimes, right? They commit a crime, they jump in a car, and they haul ass. That's where traffic enforcement comes in at, because if they're speeding, you know, depending on how you react to the person, to the officer, you know, that's the way we get to your vehicle, and we're able to conduct our investigations. You ask the right questions, you know what you're doing, you're going to find that the person has warrants, has dope. You know, you could smell the drugs in there. You know, there's just different things that happen during a traffic stop. And that's where a majority of these big busts come from, were traffic stops. Because we didn't have people manufacturing the drugs in Coffee City. They would just bring them in and through.
Mm-hmm.
So through vehicle traffic stops, that's where we got a majority of our drugs off of. And it's a good deal. A lot of guns came off the street. Lots of drugs came off the street, and a lot of drunk people came off the street.
And that's what you were hired to do, because I remember, again, my family, you know, we have had property near Coffee City my entire life. And I remember growing up, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I try to be professional, but you know, so I don't want to like talk too much trash, but I remember some of these chiefs, okay, that were chiefs in Coffee City. One of them, we stopped in Palestine, and he was cross-dressing. And I remember that I know, true story, bro. True story. I'm not even joking you. He got stopped on the loop in Palestine and pulled him out of the car, and this dude had on women's clothing, and to each their own, you know, whatever. But it was like, what? Like you were the police chief in Coffee City. So my point is like, that's what you got hired to do, is because Coffee City has really never had a good reputation. And I want to say, being so connected to Coffee City, living so close by, I remember that your administration, in my opinion, was the best one yet. Like, you guys truly did come in there and did some real freaking police work.
I can tell you this. A lot of people give me a lot of the credit, you know, and a lot of the blame, right? I'll take the blame. I'll take it, because as chief, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
But we were as good as we were because of the people I had in place. I never had anyone that wasn't better than me serving under me. And that's what a good leader does. You get the best and you put them underneath you. And a lot of people would say, man, that guy's going to take your job. I was like, well, if he wants it, he can have it. But having these smart people that are smarter than me, more years of service than me, that's what made me a good chief. Because I was never scared of them taking my job, because I could just easily, like I used to tell them all the time, the moment Coffee City don't want me, I hook up my fifth wheel trailer and I'm on my way back to Houston. I'm still going to eat.
Yeah.
I'm still going to pay bills. I got a job before I even get back to Harris County. So I'm not going to cry about it. But I fell in love with Coffee City when I was there, because the people, the businesses, everyone just showed us just so much love. They appreciated the hard work we did. They appreciated the openness. If there was a complaint, we addressed it. We didn't say, oh, well, no. If one, I think out of all the 50 reserve officers, we had 0 complaints. 0. The only complaint.
And I remember, I mean, I don't remember Coffee City. There was always some kind of scandal, but like I said, under your administration, I mean, I paid attention to Coffee City because I was there a lot. I drove through there every single day. And I don't remember until this happened there being any kind of scandal under your administration.
No, because we were very transparent. When I became chief, I went and sat down with the district attorney, Jenny Palmer. I said, look, DA Palmer, I'm new to this. I'm learning. Can you show us how you do things here? Because we're coming from a big city, Harris County. Houston, the big city. Harris County is the third largest county in the United States, I think. Tell us how you want us to do it. And I would pick her brain. And she would say, look, this is how we do it. This is what we want. And we started creating a relationship with the DA's office. The Sheriff Bodie, same thing. Sheriff Bodie, what can we do to better? Because everyone hated Coffee City.
Mm-hmm.
Every department, everybody.
I was one of them.
City. They had such a bad reputation, and my goal was to say, hey, let's mend this, man. Smith County couldn't stand this. It's like, what did these guys do? Because where I come from, we help each other out, right? We're supposed to. Where is the disconnect? And we started working with Smith County a little better, going and helping them out, backing them up when they're in the bay over there, and I thought we were doing a great job. But it wasn't until this story that they attacked me is when everyone turned their back on me.
Well, listen, I remember. I'm trying to think, man. What year was it? You say you started there again?
23? No, 22.
Okay, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I remember things really kind of lifting off for the better, because I remember thinking, and you're right. I mean, Coffee City was always the joke, and even amongst other law enforcement, And I remember having several conversations with other law enforcement before law enforcement decided to hate me because of the stance that I take. But I remember having conversations, and people would be like, yeah, man, Coffee City's really, doing a good job. Like, you guys, I mean, y'all were making local news for the good work that you were doing. And so it's just, I think it's, and we're going to get into it here in a second. I just think it's extremely poor of a news station to, and that's what they do, though. We know it, but it's just poor how they explain real quick, though, for those that are listening to this that may not understand. You said, going back to the 50 officer thing, I really want to make this clear. And you referred to the reserve program. Like, what was that program for you? Like, explain, in detail, like, hey, we didn't have 50 cops out here around the street at one time, or even 10 cops at one time. Like, there's a reason why you had people in place to call upon when you needed them.
Yeah, so my thought process was, when I took over Coffee City, we had no money. We had 2 cars and no radios. Now, you in law enforcement, imagine going almost a year with no radios. That every time you had to call dispatch, you had to get on your cell phone. And you're lucky if you even had service at the time. We're in high-speed chases on the cell phone with dispatch.
I didn't know that.
Assists.
Wow.
We're dropping assists. We got to say, hold on, dispatch, call the other officer. Where you at? I'm over here. Okay, let me update, because there's no way to talk.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we didn't have radio. We didn't even have computers, dude. We didn't even have computers.
Yikes.
So through the first year, that was my focus. Cars, radios. Radios was always number one. That's when we got to get radios, dude. The ones they had just didn't work. So the 50 officers was because when we started being more proactive, myself and the other full-timers, they were always getting into high-speed chases and having to wait for Frankston or somebody else, or, another department didn't like us, wouldn't even help us. So I said, look, if we just build the reserve program, these officers come in one day a month. One day a month. They come in, they do their 12 hours, they go home, and then we'll see them in another month. That's what the reserve program was. That we didn't pay them. They drive in from wherever they drove in, an hour away, 2 hours away, 3 hours away, 30 minutes away. They come do their one day of free patrol to the citizens. And then that way the officer on duty always had a backup officer. If he had an arrest, the city wouldn't be left alone. So that's what the reserve program was designed for. It wasn't so we would have 20 officers patrolling a city of 200. It was so The officer on duty, the full-time officer, had a backup unit and a cover unit, so in case he had to go to the jail. Or he would tell the reserve, hey, take this guy to the jail. I'm going to cover the city while I'm doing my report. So shame on you, news station that says that, we had 50 officers. Yeah. If we did, just say we did have 50 officers patrolling, who wouldn't want more cops in their city? If you're not doing nothing wrong, you have no problem seeing law enforcement everywhere. Come over to Harris County Precinct 5, they have all constables everywhere. No one complains. Why? Because it makes your city safe. Remember, we went 2 years without any major crime in Coffee City. The only crime stats we had were for proactive patrolling of getting drugs, guns, and stuff like that. Robberies, thefts, domestic violence at the hotel, break-ins in cars basically went away. Because people started knowing that you cannot go into Coffee City and do the stupid shit you used to do, because they actually have a police force that does their job. And by bringing me as an outsider into Coffee City, I didn't have connections to everybody. So when people would say, well, I know so-and-so, well, congratulations, maybe you can come bail you out. But you're not going to intimidate me because you know the mayor or you know so-and-so. Because when I got interviewed by the council, I told them, I said, look, I've arrested mayors before. I've arrested city council members before. And if you're doing something wrong in Coffee City, I will arrest you. And I went down the line and I said, I'll arrest you. I arrest you. I looked at the mayor at the time. I said, Mayor, I'll arrest you. I've done it before. I've arrested mayors before. He just laughed. He goes, yeah, I know. And then I let everyone know I'm not going to be intimidated. So and I told them, if you have family members, if you have people that you know that are doing bad things, tell them to keep it out of Coffee City. And that was my message from day one.
If in the math on that, just off the top of my head, I was trying to do it too here a little bit on cheating on my calculator. So the math on that is, if let's just say you got 50 reserve officers and you require them each to come in one time a month, and that's without anybody like being out of town or being sick or having some kind of prior commitment. At any given time, you're only going to have 1 to 3 officers. At 3 is that max at any given time. And you got to, in my opinion, I know it's Coffee City small, but stuff can still happen. So having 2 on at one time, I think at any police department in this country is, even in Mayberry, should be standard, because look how many cops get killed, right? Look how many cops in Texas have been killed last year and this year, right? Just not too far from me and Terrell. I mean, it happens, dude. And so having 2 officers on, and so if you have 50 reserves, and let's just say they all come in once a month like they're supposed to, and we know that doesn't always happen because things happen.
It did with my department. We didn't allow people to miss.
I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, it's it's just the news portrayed it as you guys are out there looking like Baltimore PD in 2020 at the George Floyd riots, for the love of God.
Do the math.
Now, I know we kind of went like a long way around, but I want to bring it back to how the investigation started. So obviously you told the story of the incident that happened at the apartment complex with the precinct 3 constable, and then the news.
No, it wasn't precinct 3.
It wasn't precinct 3?
No, the apartments were not in precinct 3.
Okay. But you were running. That's where I'm kind of like what I want to connect is like when you decided to run, you said the news cameras were following you around. At what point did you decide to put your name on the ballot?
It was in October of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then October 2023. And then when did all this stuff really start to ramp up for you at Coffee?
November of 2023.
November of 2023. Okay. Now, It's my understanding, and it's public. I even have an email, but everybody knows that there were several officers indicted for tampering with government document. But, and we'll get to that conversation. Again, there's so much to unpack here. But going back to the main reason, you had connected me with, gosh, what's his name? Give me a second. Chris Seek? Is that how you say it?
Chris Witzel.
Witzel. Okay. Syke was another one. Chris Witzel. Okay. So you hired Chris in Coffee City at what month?
Man, I couldn't tell you what month, man. I'd be lying, but I know I hired him.
But it was, I mean, it was pretty close to October, November 2023-ish, right?
No, Chris I hired in 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the story that I'm trying to that I want to talk about, is how TCOLE, the state regulatory agency for cops, came to your office and was worried about him.
Yeah, so I hired Chris Witzel. Chris was referred to me by one of my sergeants, and he's like, "Hey, Chief, what do you think about possibly hiring a buddy of mine? Great guy, family man, good Christian guy." I was like, "Well, did you tell him how I am?" Because that's what I always tell people, man. Do you know? Make sure you know who you're going to come work for. Because we don't do lazy here in Coffee City. We don't do tattletales. We don't do crybabies. And, you know, if you have a world of excuses, don't come work for me, dude. It's just like with my businesses. Don't come work for me, man. Because you got to keep up with me. Because I wasn't one of those chiefs that sat in my office. I wrote, and one of our mutual friends, he can tell you, working with Chief Portillo is fun because that man doesn't stop. I'm the first one on the streets. I'm the last one off the streets. I make 2 or 3 arrests when I'm on the streets, and I write my citations accordingly. I do my investigations, and then I still got to do paperwork. So I was putting in 16, 18 hours a day when I was up in Coffee City. And so Chris came and had a conversation with Chris. I said, you know, long story short, is who the fuck did you piss off, bro? He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Who'd you piss off?" He goes, "Well," he goes, "I don't know." He goes, "I don't know what I did. It just, you know, they just told me that I couldn't work for the department I was at anymore because the DA wasn't going to take my charges." I said, "Okay." So I started doing my due diligence because, you know, law enforcement, everyone knows everyone's dirty laundry, right? And got a letter from a county attorney that says, "Hey, Chief, in reference to Chris Witzel, he's a great guy, great officer. You'd be lucky to have him on your staff, blah, blah, blah."
And this was the county attorney from his previous agency, which was, what was it? Hearn, I think is where he worked before.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. The county attorney.
Yeah. So I'm showing this letter saying, "Hey, you know, this was a political move. He just got on the wrong side of the wrong person." So that's why I asked Chris. I said, "Well, who'd you sleep with? You know, or who'd you piss off?" Because they don't usually do this unless you like really piss somebody off or you sleep with somebody's wife or daughter or something. I don't know. And he's like, "Chief, I promise you, man, I ain't done nothing." So then I checked with some sergeants of his and stuff, and they all had great things to say about him. Just say, "Man, he just pissed off the wrong people." So I had a conversation with Chris. Said, "Hey, you know, you come here, do your job. You know what to do. Don't embarrass the department, and you're good." He's like, "Yes, sir. I'll promise I'm not going to do nothing stupid." I said, "All right." I hired him. As soon as
Did you do a proper background on him? I mean,
of course.
Sounds like you did.
Now, according to the news, we were doing improper hiring, right? But it's funny that they say that because if you go request, and you can request this yourself, ask TCOLE to give you the audits that they did of my department while I was chief. I passed every single audit. And those audits, they go in and look at your files, your employee files, your officer files and make sure that everything you're supposed to do, you did. And if there's something missing, you got dinged. We passed all of our backgrounds.
Wow.
All of our audits. So where this news got this inappropriate hiring procedures, we followed everything that TCOLE's told us to do. But apparently someone creates these fake news stories and puts it out there. As soon as I hire Chris, I get a phone call from an investigator from TCOLE. He says, hey, I'm so-and-so with TCOLE. We need to have a conversation. I said, well, talk away. What the fuck you want? Well, you hired Chris Witzel? I said, yeah. I said, why? Does he not have an active peace officer's license? He goes, oh, yeah, he's in good standing. I said, what's the problem? Well, we just feel that he shouldn't be a police officer. I said, okay. I said, let's resort back to my first question. Is he in good standing with TCOLE? Yes. Okay. So if you guys feel he should not be a police officer, why don't you pull his license? We can't. Why not? We don't have the authority. But you're fucking TCOLE. Y'all are the ones that give us the license.
Yep.
So where's the problem? Well, we just feel that, you shouldn't have hired him. I said, well, I'm the chief of Coffee City, and he met every requirement that we set forth. So we hired him. He goes, well, we also got a complaint that you didn't do his background. I said, no shit. I said, and of course, you know me, I can't ever keep my mouth shut. I said, well, who's the stupid lying son of a bitch that told you that? Well, I can't tell you. Well, if you're going to come knock on my door and tell me that someone said I didn't do something, bring the motherfucker in front of me. But you're not going to sit there and tell me I didn't do my job when I did. I said, my sergeant does all my backgrounds and verifications and all that, and we do secure share. Next few days later, maybe a few days later, may have been next week, but all of a sudden TCOLE walks into my office.
Time out. I want to ask, how long after you hired him did this happen? So this was 22.
It was like less than a month later, he was in the office.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was very quickly.
Has that ever happened to you before?
No, this was the first one. So TCOLE walks in, I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, my chief and my assistant chief and captains, all that said, hey, man, if TCOLE ever comes here, you got to be nice, man. And you can't be the JP and, talking shit. I'm like, why? I said, why are y'all so scared of TCOLE? Oh, you just don't want to piss people off. Well, I'm not pissing people off. I just I want the system to be fair. So he walks in my office and little arrogant dude. And I was like, can I help you? I'm so-and-so TCOLE. I said, well, congratulations. What can I do for you? And he tells me that the sergeant from Hearn PD made a complaint that I did not do my background check. He said, what? He said, well, that sergeant over there and some Mexican sergeant, I don't know his name, but he says you never called him. I said, well, fuck that motherfucker. Get him on the phone because he's full of shit. I said, before I even do my next, let me tell you something, sir. When I call this number, it's going to go straight to voicemail. And it's going to say he's not available and to leave a message. I've left several messages on his voicemail, and he's never called me back. And by the way, here's the email that I sent their department that's asking someone to please call me back because I'm doing a background check. Now, the rule of TCOLE is you call 3 times, then you've done your due diligence.
Yeah, you can't make them respond. I mean, I've done.
Yeah. How many backgrounds have you done?
Yeah, as a detective, we got assigned every background.
Or they don't call back because they don't want you to proceed with that background because they have a personal problem with the officer you're doing the background on. So I dial the number, and it pops, and it goes straight to voicemail and everything. I break out Chris's file, and I said, look, here's all the dates and times that I called him. He's like, oh, I guess you're telling the truth. He goes, all right. He goes, well, in the future, I said, well, we can't make people call us back, Dave. And then he went on to say, well, I still think Chris doesn't need to be in law enforcement. I said, what do you have against this guy, dude? What did he sleep with your wife? I mean, why is you guys so worried about this guy coming to work for Coffee City? He's like, well, sometimes you just got to understand that, there's certain people that shouldn't be in law enforcement. And I said, well, once again, your TCOLE, do your jobs and pull their license.
Yeah, and why? I mean, I have so many questions about that because you've already said it, but if TCOLE has a problem with somebody, yank their license. But they can't just yank somebody's license because they know that there's statute that governs that you can't yank somebody's license for anything. And so what it was, and what it was through, from what I'm hearing, and also in my conversation with Chris says, I mean, nice guy, super nice guy. I understand his concern with maybe not wanting to come on the podcast.
Retaliation.
But my question is, like, if he was a horrible officer, then why does he have a peace officer's license? But what TCOLE was trying to do, and this is the shady stuff that happens behind the scene that people don't really know about. Hell, they'll probably indict me after this podcast, but what people don't know about is, and it happens at all the agencies in this state, all the police agencies, they will go behind the scenes as much as possible to try, and if they don't like somebody, or if their friend doesn't like somebody, oh, well, I'm buddies with this guy. Well, my buddy doesn't like this officer, so you should watch out for him. They try their hardest to get to prevent good officers from being hired, and it's disgusting. And that's clearly what TCOLE was doing here with you, was trying to create a problem that wasn't there, simply because the guy who works for TCOLE, and Chris tells this in his in his story, was friends with somebody at his previous agency.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is unethical. It should be illegal, but it's definitely unethical.
Well, it is illegal. I mean, there's a statute where you cannot interfere with someone's right to employment.
Yeah.
And not to fast track anything, but when you got TCOLE calling agencies telling them not to hire people, that's not good, because you're interfering with their right to work. And this deal about this application that's a big argument. TCOLE says that's our application. Well, no, you kind of designed it, but it's not your application, because that application is really the city that you're applying for. Now, let me get this straight. Remember, when I got hired with Coffee City, I didn't fill out a TCOLE application. I don't have a TCOLE application on file with Coffee City. The application that they made us redo was almost a year after I was hired as chief, and it's notarized a year later.
And can you tell us why that came to be?
Because the new regulations that says you have to have a TCOLE application on file.
Yeah, so somebody did an audit and said, hey, or I assume, hey, you should probably have an app on file, so you filled one out.
No, we self-reported.
Okay.
See, that back in the day, as a new chief, you would take over as Asuma's position, and as long as you self-reported to TCOLE, says, hey, this is what I got. Is this right? And they would say, no, it's not right. You need to fix it, and don't let it happen again. You're able to correct the mistake without any fear of punishment, or you may get a slap on the wrist. But that's what self-reporting was for, because you would say, hey, I forgot to do this, or hey, I did this, but I think I fucked up. And they would say, yeah, you need to do it like this, correct it, and we'll just notate it that you spoke to us. That's what TCOLE was there to do, was to help guys like me that ain't never been a chief learn the system.
Yeah, because there's a learning curve. There's a lot to it.
Yeah,
Man.
there's a learning curve. You're not going to know everything, and you can be in office for many years and still not know everything. But
yeah, that's a totally different administration side to what you normally do as a cop.
But I can tell you, there's a lot of departments that hire a chief where the chief only fills out the city's application and never does a TCOLE app. We have recordings of officers that reported that to the TCOLE, and TCOLE says, well, what do you want us to do? Indict the guy because he didn't fill out an application? But yet you come to Coffee City and say, oh, well, y'all did this wrong and y'all are bad. No, we're not bad. We just didn't know. If I would have known that I needed to have all this on this application, I mean, they went after officers for things that they put on all their applications, but left it off of a Coffee City application.
All right, so hold up. Don't go into that story yet. I want to get to. We'll get there. All right. So this happened with Chris. TCOLE showed up, tried to obviously sway you into not hiring him or somehow letting him go. Trying to sway your opinion. And then, what was the next step in this thunderstorm from TCOLE? Like, when did they come back and start this big old investigation into Coffee City?
I think with Chris, it was kind of like, okay, after I emailed, because a lot of the stuff that Chris got indicted for, they had sent me emails saying, hey, did Chris tell you about this? And I would reply, yes, he told me this, and this is what he told me. But did he tell you exactly this? I was like, look, he mentioned the incident. I reviewed the incident. It's obviously bullshit. It didn't have no bearing on where I was going to hire. Emailed them those letters from the county attorney, emailed them the letters from the sergeants. Basically, everything that they indicted Chris on, TCOLE was told by me that he told me everything. Their position was, but it's not on his application. I go, but he disclosed it. Now, if I would have known back then that it needed to be on the application, I would have said, hey, Chris, write this in real quick. But you're saying that he knowingly and intentionally defrauded me into hiring him by not putting this on his application. And that's a fucking lie. Straight out, that's a fucking lie. Same with Jared Seek. Jared Seek was indicted because I hired him and they said, well, he didn't put this on his application. And I told him, I said, Jared Seek told me this, and this, and this, and this. And by him telling me this, then I'm going to have to plug in this thing because it's saying I have low battery. Give me a second.
Oh, you're good.
Just hang tight. I don't want it to die out on this here. I didn't think it was going to die that quick. Sorry about that, guys. I got to figure this out. But, that was another thing that
So it's clear, and I'm just going to play Chris's conversation because I think people need to hear it. He is no longer under indictment. They made him take a deal to take his license. So this is his story in his own words of what happened.
Okay, Justin, this is Chris Witzel, the guy I was talking to from PD.
Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Hey, good. Just a basically brief synopsis. We had basically I was with her for 15 years. I worked my way up, started off as a patrol, and then went to a corporal, which was like the night supervisor, and then went to a sergeant, and then I was over patrol as a lieutenant. Towards the end, we had a new assistant district attorney come in, who, for whatever reason, to this day, I still don't know, never liked me, to a very, personal level. Like I said, I don't know what I did or to her, and she never explained it to me when I tried to give her an opportunity to explain. So that started us off on wrong. And I was also, as lieutenant, I was also the investigator. and we had an incident where we had a drive-by shooting, and me and command staff basically were going to charge the guy aggravated assault with a deadly weapon because the people were outside of their house, and they were getting shot at, and then basically I was told to confer with the DA's office about it, and they recommended doing deadly conduct instead of aggravated assault charges. But I did aggravated assault charges per our command staff, and then the relationship really soured and went really, really bad downhill from there. So we went to but like literally after we filed the charges and everything, they said we change it, and we changed it immediately. It wasn't like we were telling them, no, we're not going to do what you're saying or something. So we changed it immediately and got the correct charges and everything filed. So anyways, we had a deal where we responded to apartment complex. It was basically a apartment complex in Hearn called the Columbus Village. And this apartment complex is basically where all of the felons live. And we have really bad habitual criminal trespass violators. So these people would go in and just cause havoc for the people who wanted to remain low key and stuff. So there was one day we got dispatched out there, being another officer, and I saw one of the guys who usually causes the issue, but I saw him from a distance. And where my mistake was, and this is where they could get me, and it looks bad, is I said on body camera, I saw the guy, and he took off running. I didn't feel like chasing him, so I told my partner, I told him, I said, did you see, his name is Jaheim Dunn. I said, did you see Jaheim Dunn? And my partner's like, no, I didn't see him. And I'm like, yeah, it was kind of blurry for me too, but what I said wasn't the truth. I really did see him. My partner, we went chasing this dude. I had to feel like chasing the dude. I don't know, it was probably laziness or whatever, but that was the truth. Anyways, where I messed up is I went back to the police department and I wrote the report up, not using the body cam, up exactly how it happened. And then so that was like a September, and then January, I didn't hear anything back from it at all after that was done. So January, I went to the DA's office to speak with the DA and the assistant DA, per the advice of the assistant chief of Hearn, to try to see if we can't try to amend issues between me and the assistant. Just her name is Jamie Lowry, to see if we can't try to amend, see what's going on. Because like I said, I honestly didn't know. So we went up there, got railroaded with this, with this incident I just described to you. And the DA, Cody Seeger, basically said, what's going on here? For the body cam, you can't really see, because there was a bunch of people out in that apartment complex that evening, which was a normal thing. So basically I told him, I was like, I don't really remember, but I will just give me a couple of days or whatever. So a couple of days went by, and or a day went by, and then I was told by they basically told them by the admin at Hearn PD that they were no longer going to take my cases. And I said, I basically called him and told him, I remember exactly what happened, and I'll be willing to do a polygraph, whatever you want to do to correct this, because I did not lie. I've never lied on any kind of government charting instruments or reports, anything like that. So I was like, whatever we got to do to correct this, we need to do. And they literally just shut me down. They didn't give me another chance. So that started the negative end of a 15-year law enforcement career, to which I never even totally written up. I received some verbal warnings where a supervisor in the past was like, hey, don't do this again or something. But I think we all get that in a law enforcement career if you spend any kind of period of time in one. So
right.
So that's basically the downfall of Hearn. But the city of Hearn, after they said they were going to take my cases anymore, they did their own independent. The police department did its own independent investigation, put me under an internal review, and it was unfounded. They basically didn't didn't believe I lied. And then the city of Hearn did its own as well through their through the city attorney, who was also the prosecutor for Hearn, Floyd Akers, and he was he basically said that he, after looking at everything and talking to everybody, that basically that I got politically railroaded. So that basically they kind of forced me out. I think that's what they wanted to do. They just want to force me out of her.
Did you leave on your own?
Yeah. So basically I applied with Blaine Police Department, and they basically let me leave when in my earliest, because the DA's office quit. They said they were going to quit taking my cases. So at that point, I just basically turned into a traffic enforcement officer. And so I started writing just tickets and backing officers up on calls. But and then when I got a job with Blinn, I left under good terms, and it was honorably discharged and all that.
Is that when you went to Coffee City?
Yeah. So after I got terminated, and I was fighting, I was appealing everything. And then there's a mutual friend of me and John's, his name's Eli. And Eli basically said that John's a real good guy, gives you second chances. And while I was fighting this dishonorable, I didn't even try to get on with another police department. I didn't think I had a chance, really. Because when you're fighting a dishonorable, most departments don't even give you, basically look at you like you're just the worst of the worst. So
Yeah.
So I got on with them, and then once I got my stuff corrected, I just liked John at that point, and I stayed. He's a good guy. He has his guy's back. Clearly, after you sing everything, he clearly has, and he's a very headstrong. He has his own thoughts, his own opinions. He's not politically swayed. He's not a yes man. He does what he thinks is right. And there's very few people like that now.
And then John was saying that the investigator for TCOLE is somehow connected with Hearn.
No. The investigator for TCOLE is connected with Blinn. He's the friend of the chief of Blinn, John. The chief of Blinn, his name is John Chancellor. I don't know if he's still the chief, but he was when I was there. So John Chancellor, after I never heard anything about TCOLE until I started appealing the termination. And then TCOLE, the only reason I know TCOLE was involved is because they were going to all the people I've been working off duty with, and was basically trying to see if I was working off duty after I was let go. And then that was, but I was just wondering like why TCOLE was involved. But I wasn't worried because when I was terminated from Blinn, I didn't work any more off duty jobs or anything to get myself wrapped up in anything else stupid. So I wasn't too much worried about it. And then when I got on with Coffee City, he went over there and spoke with Portillo and basically shedding very negative light on me as well. And then towards the end, I think he tried again. So and then obviously, we get these charges filed on us for allegedly tampering with government document, without them even doing any kind of investigation to try to ask us what our side of the story is. I don't even know this. I've never even met this guy. I don't even know what he looks like. And then the media, of course, as you saw, they attacked Coffee City because of the number of reserves that we had, but we really needed it. John Portillo ran that police department like a professional organization that was covered 24/7 with paid and mostly non-paid people. So the only way to run it is to have a number of people to be able to cover everything. So that was the attack. So I never really understood that part. I don't understand why the number of officers is an issue if the ships are being covered. So
one thing I want to hone in on is because I think it's important it's a key piece is David knew, and then the chief that you mentioned from Blinn, John Chancellor. Okay, so how were they friends? I mean, what was the connection there? Do you know?
So this part's hearsay. I'm not 100% sure, but what I was told by officers at Bland is that John Chancellor and helped write the best practices policies that TCOLE has. So he knew everyone up there and was friends with everyone up there. But that's more hearsay, so I'm not honestly 100% sure. But he clearly had some kind of connection because literally as soon as I started appealing with the Bland stuff, TCOLE got involved.
Yeah. And when you started appealing the Blend stuff, were you already at Coffee City?
No.
Okay. And when you say they got involved, like, what did that look like?
They went to several of the coordinators I was working off-duty jobs for when I was at Bland, like security off-duty jobs for, and wanted all their documents regarding all the dates and times I worked any jobs with them, because they're basically trying to see if I violated any of other Blend's policies regarding that, and stuff like that. So that was when I very first noticed that TCOLE was involved.
Well, it's interesting that they showed up at Coffee City so soon.
Yeah, like I don't know the exact date. I don't remember the exact date, but I wasn't there for. I think I was sworn in with Coffee City. I think it was within the first week. He literally followed me. He had to have been paying attention to my F5 to know.
Well, they flag people's files. So when someone does an F5R on somebody, it alerts David New that this person, that an agency did an F5R on this person. So what David does is David will call the agency and say, hey, you may want to think twice about hiring this guy. He's no good, blah, blah, blah. And then if you say no, then he'll show up in your office and try to intimidate you with his presence.
Now, it's extremely clear that they were after Chris because, and he tells that the TCOLE guy, the TCOLE investigator, had a relationship, a friendship with someone at his old police department. And so they unethically just put TCOLE on Chris and then ultimately your department. So the initial issue was with Chris. In the background, it sounds like KHOU was already tipped off by somebody at that constable's office, so they were doing an investigation. Were you blindsided by the news story, or it's my understanding, because I possess something that I want to play here in a minute, it's that you knew something was coming, right?
Well, I mean, the news says, hey, we want to get kind of a story about Coffee City. Kind of like, why do you have so many officers and this and that? And obviously my thing was, yeah, that's fine. I mean, we don't got nothing to hide. We're not doing nothing illegal. But I was blindsided because we were only supposed to talk about the officers that we hired and our process of hiring and stuff like that. When he's broke out all this other stuff and trying to discredit us, you know, that was a blindside, dude.
Tell me at what point you got put on the ballot to run for Precinct 3 Constable.
Well, I believe it was in October of 2023.
Okay.
It was close to the last day of registering to run for office.
And you were running a campaign, and all this stuff hit the fan early 2024. So I've got a video of somebody telling you that if you'll drop out of the race, then take yourself off the ballot, then the news story will go away. Tell me about that.
Well, that's a campaign manager for my opponent. Okay. And the first conversation I had with them, they actually came to my business. I have a crawfish business here in Houston. and I won't say the name because I don't want to get targeted again.
Yeah,
but basically, walk through the door. I'm sitting there doing paperwork, and she has a seat. Surprises the shit out of me because I'm like, one or two things are going through my mind. She left my opponent, and she wants to come work for me, which I was like, cool, because she's good at what she does. Or two, she's going to come at me with some bullshit. So she had a seat in front of me, and I've known her a while. We actually worked together to get the guy that I was running again elected in 2016. And she sat down and she basically told me that, hey, you know, you need to withdraw from the race. You need to, you know, focus on your family, and you don't want nothing to happen to your family, and you know, and I'm just sitting there going, this, and I didn't record the first conversation. I'm like, is this motherfucker really telling me that you don't want nothing to happen to my family? And she keeps talking. I said, look, cut her off. I said, look, I'm not withdrawing from the race. They already indicted my ass. I have nothing to lose. I said, the only reason you guys came after me is because I'm Mexican and Trump's running and that we're going to get all the Mexican vote and you guys are scared that I'm going to actually fucking win. And she goes, well, think about it. I'll call you in a few days, you know, but all this can go away. You know, this has all affected not just you, but all of your officers and you know, people need to get back to work. And I said, look, y'all did what you guys did. There's no making that go away. She calls me a few days later. That's when I press record on my phone because no one's going to believe me that the campaign manager was telling me all this.
Yeah, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it. Hold tight. This is crazy. This is crazy to me. I'm playing it.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on, Jay?
Quick question. One of the guys that I guess you used to work with, is he running for a position too?
Who?
Is there one of the guys from Coffee that was also running for a constable position?
Not that I know of. You got his name?
Oh, I forgot what they said it was. JP.
For what position?
It's I don't think it's Harris County. It's another position, but it's for a political position for the primaries. I'm gonna get the name, but
not that I know of.
Okay, because another story is supposed to be airing about you and another person that are running for positions from Coffee City.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. The only other person I know running is Eric Patino, but he's running on the Republican ticket. Yeah. I think he works for. He's never worked for me.
Okay, well, yeah, I know it's somebody else.
Yeah.
But see, somebody it's supposed to be like a story coming out with two candidates that are on the ballot from there. So I was just trying to see if you knew which one it was.
No, I haven't had any contact with anybody since that shit happened.
Well, whatever you decide to do, you know, if you do take your name off the ballot, call old boy, let him know that you did the reporter, so that way he can squash that story. Or he'll have to recant it.
Yeah, he's gonna continue to do what they do. I mean, it is what it is.
Okay.
I'm busy.
It hasn't aired yet, and so I just wanted you to know. Did you get that name of the officer so I can?
No, my son said he didn't want to. That he knew the guy and that he didn't want to get him in trouble, but you know.
But you know, it would be because you can't do that, you know.
Yeah. Well,
because if it's happening to you, then that's a character thing, and he could be doing this to other people too.
Yeah, I don't know. My son just says, "Don't worry about it." I said, "All right."
Go. Okay.
Yeah, I said. He goes, "If it keeps happening, if it happens again, I'll let you know." I said, "All right." He just, you know, they don't like getting people in trouble. They just want to live their lives.
Okay, I just didn't like that.
Yeah, so, I appreciate it, but
no problem. Then I just wanted to give you a heads up on the other things, so you know.
That's fine. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Oh yeah, thanks for the heads up that you're about to ruin my life. Like, what is that? there was a car that drove by, and I'm going to try to I'll try to fix that audio, but she clearly says, and what's the name she said? She said, it sounded like O'Boyle, but I couldn't hear what she said.
The who?
She said, if call somebody.
Call O'Boyd.
O'Boyd?
Yeah.
Okay. Call O'Boyd, and did you want to take your name off the ballot? We'll squash the news story. And I guess that's the big ass news story that everybody knows about.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's politics, bro. Is that not even like, I don't know the law on it, but is that not election interference? Like, what is this?
Well, like I tell you, and she's referencing my son because they started pulling over my kids in the area, harassing them. And, I called him. I said, hey, dude, you fuck with me all you want. I'm fair game. Don't fuck with my kids, dude. You start messing with my kids, we're going to have a fucking serious problem, like any parent. And, then they're trying to say, we didn't tell him to do it. Well, why else would we start getting pulled over and harassed leaving a restaurant? My son was pulled over and the cop went up to him. I can smell you're drunk. Would you drink it? Would you smoke? And it's like, dude, chill out, dude. You ain't even part of it. You're just a deputy. And, the sad thing about it is a lot of these officers think they need to help their boss harass people. The last election was even worse in 2020. People would drive around with my sticker on their car. They get pulled over and they tear the sticker off their trucks. And say, why are you supporting this guy? He's a piece of shit. And, it's like even my campaign manager, basically rest in peace to Juana Hunter, they stopped and took her stack of flyers off her dashboard and says, you shouldn't be supporting this guy. So politics is a dirty game. And I believe that the reason I got indicted was simply for that, was so I wouldn't have a good opportunity to run for constable.
So let's talk about your indictments. I mean, this right here, to me, dude, if I was listening to this podcast and I heard that video, I would be like, hey, let's go protest peacefully out at the steps of the Henderson County Courthouse, because this is bullshit. I mean, it's clear as day that, number one, they were trying to target Chris Witzel, and then in that effort, they began coming after you simply because you stood up to them and you were also running for office. Now, here's another key point. You told me this when we first spoke. Wasn't there somebody in your opponent's office that works for TCOLE?
Yeah, there was a captain that used to work for my opponent's office that went to go work for TCOLE. And as soon as he went to go work for TCOLE, guess what started happening?
That's wild, man. That's wild.
I mean, any chief, any administrative of any department will tell you, you get audited once every 3 to 4 years. I've been audited every 8 months, Then this last time I finally said, here's all my damn files. If you find something wrong, let me know. Because all I'm trying to do is my job. I'm trying to do what's right. Let me know where I'm messing up. I started calling that investigator and say, hey, I got this situation. Could you give me some direction? No, it's not our, we cannot tell you how to run your department. We can just tell you how to stay in compliance. But yet you want to hold me accountable when I have a question and you guys won't tell me the answer. And then I went to a training seminar in Henderson County, and I raised my hand because I want to fucking know. Is it okay for TCOLE to call me and ask me why I hired somebody? And the guy at the front says, oh, hell no. You need to file a complaint. TCOLE is not allowed to call the department and ask you why you're hiring certain people.
Because if they have an active license, in my opinion, it's another fucking business.
Now get it. Another chief raised his hand and says, that happened to me too. And then another guy raised his hand and goes, that happened to me too. And the guy at the front, he's been with TCOLE forever. He says, no, guys, TCOLE cannot call you and ask why you're hiring people. That is solely up to the department why you guys hire who you hire. If they're not in good standing, then we reject their L1 and we tell you can't hire him because of this. But at no time can they or are they allowed to call you and question your hiring.
Well, so let's talk about the actual indictments then. So you were indicted. I know there's some things we can't talk about because you're in the middle of this legal battle, but you were indicted for 6 counts of tampering with a government document. Now, that doesn't mean 6 separate documents, right? That's all one?
Yeah. Well, the way the news portrays it as, and this is what I get a lot of calls and people that want to say they're concerned and this and that, but really they're just being nosy. They're like, we heard that you guys were falsifying these documents, reports and evidence and shit like that. I'm here to say 100%. There was no report that was doctored. There's no evidence ever missing. There's no evidence manipulated. Nothing. These charges, and I spoke to a news guy this last time I was in court, and I called his ass out. And I said, look, y'all need to stop reporting this bullshit that we were doing stuff wrong in Coffee City. This is about a job application. And his exact words was, that's not true. I have proof. Okay, where's your proof that we were doing something wrong? Because I can sit here right now and tell you, they audited, as soon as I was out the door, excuse me, they audited my evidence room. There wasn't one piece of evidence that wasn't tagged, labeled, or present. Nothing was missing. There was no illegal reports that were manipulated to create an indictment. They went through my whole department and found nothing. This thing about what do they call it? Inappropriate hiring practices.
Well, I think
what is that?
I think that's left to interpretation. But your indictment wasn't for that though, right?
No, my indictment was because my job application. So I haven't even seen the new indictment. I've just been
because you were indicted with 6 counts of tampering with a government document, and then they dropped those because, in my opinion, I don't know. Clearly, I'm just thinking from the outside looking in and having a lot of experience. Somebody fucked up, and they re-indicted you months later, recently, last week or the week before, for 6 new counts of the same charge, tampering with a government document. So something wasn't worded right. Somebody was like, "Oh, we better fix this because he's going to beat this." And that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, I don't know that for sure, obviously, but that's what it sounds like.
I don't know why they dismissed the charges and re-indicted me on the same 6 charges.
But we're talking about, you said it, we're talking about a job application. Because of what? Because you left your DWI out? Because what?
Well, I think the other ones were because I was written up at a previous department, and I didn't list them. Where it says, "Have you ever been written up?" and you mark yes, and then you put down. They only give you 2 spots to write down, and I'm assuming this is what they're for. Because once again, I haven't seen the new indictment. I just know I've been re-indicted, right? So I can tell you, like on Chris's, it was because he didn't tell me about the Hearn incident, lawsuit that he was involved in, that he didn't even know was an active lawsuit until TCOLE told him that there was one. The other one was about, he didn't tell me he was under investigation from TCOLE. Well, Chris didn't know that he was under investigation from TCOLE because TCOLE never said, "Hey, you're under investigation, dude." So how can you disclose things that you don't even know nothing about? And in my application, I know it was about me being written up. But if you go back to my previous agencies where I did work, those write-ups are listed on those applications. They just weren't listed on the Coffee City one.
And you know what's crazy about that, bro? I applied. Dude, we live life. We go to sleep every night. and there's so much stuff that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And years go by. I applied for I think that was Bullard PD, and I put a personal history statement out there, and there's a fucking clause. Give me a second, because I'm gonna read it while we're sitting right here, just to make it clear for everybody. Give me a second. I'm gonna Google it. Personal history statement. Okay. Cracking a cold one over there, or what?
Yeah, Coca-Cola, man.
Let's see. So it says at the very end where you sign. Let's see. I hereby certify that I personally completed and initialed each page of this form and any supplemental pages attached, and that all statements made are true and complete. And here's the fucking kicker: to the best of my knowledge and belief. Now, here's the thing, and that's what the TCOLE app says right there on their website. I just pulled it up. I can tell you, going back to my story about Bullard, I applied for Bullard PD, and they were a bunch of assholes to me, by the way, simply because I exposed corruption in Palestine, and the guy doing the investigation was best friends with one of the detectives over there.
Oh, see how that works?
Yeah, and you know how that backdoor shit goes, right?
I'm not talking bullshit, dude.
No.
These are facts. Dude.
These are facts, bro. So I did that personal history statement. Well, he calls me up and says, hey, I got your personal history statement from your previous agency, and it shows that you applied for Frankston PD, and you didn't list that on your application. I said, well, shit. I remember when I applied for Frankston. You're bringing that up, right? You're sparking my memory. You're right. I did apply for Frankston. My kid had a birth defect and was in Dallas Children's Medical Center for 3 fucking months. And I was going through some tough times, and I applied for Frankston. But you know how many years ago that was, Chase? His name's Chase. I'm like, my kid was born in 2014. I think when I applied in Bullard, it was like 20... might have been the beginning of 23. So like 9 years ago. For the love of God, I'm sorry that I left out this agency that I applied for on your application. And then he brought up, well, that's not the only thing. Just so you know, you got written up in 2012 or 2011 for this, and this, and you didn't list it. I said, hell yeah. I said, now you're bringing it up. I said, let me tell you all about it. I said, dude, we live life, and sometimes we forget about this shit because some of it is so stupid. Some of it is just like, you don't think about this stuff. And that's why there's a clause at the end of the fucking application that
best of my knowledge and belief.
Best of my knowledge and belief. To me, that alone right there, how can they turn around and indict you for 6 counts of tampering with government document for some things that you left out on that freaking stupid. And furthermore, I tried to do some research on this, and they stonewalled me. I'm going to put this image up. I emailed them because I was curious. I wanted to know how many times has TCOLE done an investigation, turned that investigation over to a district attorney's office in this state for what I just mentioned, not putting something on your personal history statement, accidentally omitting something, whatever. I emailed them. This is what they told me. You can see the email here. It says, good morning. Thank you for your request. We do not have historical records on which TCOLE cases have been reviewed by district attorney, as this is not recorded data. What? You have an investigative division, licensed peace officers who are sitting out here investigating cases and turning them over to district attorneys for people to be indicted, and you don't record that data?
But hold on a second. So by them saying that, you know better because you've been an investigator. You're probably a hell of a better investigator than my dumbass, right? But here's the deal: when you start an investigation, what's the fucking first thing you do?
You talking about a background investigation?
An investigation for charges.
Oh,
you pull a case number.
Yeah, you got to have a case number, and you have a I'm in the private sector now, so I call them CRMs. But you have a reporting system that you put that in, and you can go in there, type in whatever charge you want, a date range, and you can pull that kind of stuff up. I don't know why they would say they don't have it unless they're just kind of running some.
Well, you got to have a case number, and you have to, and obviously all of their cases are going to be tampering with the government document or falsifying whatever. But you're going to have that. All you got to do is to type that in. They'll tell you how many investigations we did, and then those guys at TCOLE have been there forever. They know who they've taken to the damn district attorneys.
And furthermore, not only do I have personal experience with accidentally leaving shit out on a personal history statement, how many background investigations, anytime somebody was hired, they brought those background investigations to us detectives. We hated them, but we had to do them because we were the ones assigned to do them. It was just part of the job. Mm-hmm. How many times, I can't tell you, did I do a background investigation and find some kind of anomaly, whether it be big or small, but whether somebody was blatantly lying or accidentally omitted something. And all I would do would be just call them up, say, hey, look, this is what I discovered. Can you tell me about it? Like, I wasn't a dick. I wanted to find out if they were being truthful or untruthful, and we would make that determination. How many cases did I turn over to TCOLE and say, hey, I might want to investigate this and indict this guy because he freaking lied about it? Zero. In 15 years of law enforcement, 0 times.
Well, because you don't have a personal agenda.
Have I seen that happen? And I never seen it happen until Coffee City. And that's why I sent them that email, because I want to know, how many times has your freaking agency done this? And they don't have data.
No, not to go backwards, but you heard on that recording with the old campaign manager, right?
Yeah.
The person she was asking for, and I'm not going to say his name because he's already fighting TCOLE's ass, but he was running for an elected position.
Wow.
The former mayor of Coffee City was running for a elected position. He got indicted.
Yeah, this was a massive political hit job, and it's clear. It's extremely clear. And
I honestly believe that if I didn't hire these 3 people or 4 people, they would have never even came. And if I didn't run, they would have never gave 2 fucks about Coffee City.
Yeah,
you got an elected official in Galveston County, Jimmy Fuller. He was a constable in Galveston County for 12, 16 years, something like that. He decided he's going to run for Galveston County Sheriff's position. He got elected. Guess what they did to him? The same damn thing. Because they didn't want him to take over the Galveston County Sheriff's Department. But he has money.
Political weaponization, bro. You see it.
That's all they did. That's all they're doing with TCOLE. They're weaponizing TCOLE for their own personal agenda. You know, they're doing away with the F5s so they can continue to weaponize TCOLE. And they're taking away, the F5 system was so great because if someone says you're fired because you're a piece of shit, you have a chance to appeal that thing. To go to a hearing, to have a judge hear it. So a judge can say, nope, department, you did wrong. You have to give them an honorable discharge. Now they've taken that away, and now all they can do is, if you work for me and JohnJay Portillo as chief says, this person is a piece of shit, don't hire him, you can no longer appeal my thing in your file. The only thing you can do is submit a piece of paper saying chief is wrong and this is why. No one can ever pull anything out of your file, even though it's a lie.
Yeah, that's crap, dude. They did that to me in Palestine. They put something in my file after I left because their feelings were hurt because I didn't take a case to the DA's office. I didn't do their little their legwork. I mean, the case was done, but I didn't do their legwork. And I put a note in there. I said, in the note, I said, if you would, something along the lines of, and paraphrasing, that if you would treat your employees better, they'd be willing to do more. Well, they took that and said, and they completely fabricated the case. They said, well, he didn't do anything. He didn't investigate this case at all. It was a sexual assault. He didn't care about his victims. And so what they did was they put a note in my file after the fact and said, because they found it when I left. I left it on my desk on the very top. And they wanted me to just hand deliver it. I said, no, I'm not doing your dirty work, because they treated me like shit. I mean, was it petty? Yeah, looking back on it, it was. I mean, it was petty. I could have taken it over there, but I didn't. Can't go back and change it. And they found that note after I left. They put something in my file saying, this case wasn't investigated, which was bullshit, because I drove to freaking West Texas, interviewed the guy that was in prison, went to the CAC. It was a sexual assault case. I mean, I did all these things, wrote the narrative. The narrative was completely done. And they want to say, oh, well, he didn't investigate the case. And so they put that in my file after I left and said I was not rehireable. So when I applied for Bullard, that's when I found out that they put all that crap in my file and said, well, yeah, he's not rehireable. I was like, what? So anyway, it happens. And that's the thing. And then you got guys on the flip side. In contrast, you have guys like that guy in San Antonio. I posted about it recently on my social media. The guy in San Antonio that puts freaking dog shit, some kind of fecal matter, in a sandwich and gives it to a homeless guy. They fire him. Well, this guy just rolls up over here and gets hired at another agency like it's no problem. And then you got guys like you and I say this all the time, guys like you and I who, and I'll be honest with you, John, you already know this. I ain't saying anything you don't know, but we talked about it in the beginning. You're very honest. You're very blunt, and it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You don't really censor. And so, not only were they trying to do a political hit job, but you probably pissed them off too with the way you responded to.
Well, I didn't fall in line, and that's the thing with TCOLE. People always told me, you got to be a good servant. You got to be a good boy.
Yeah.
You got to fall in line. And the thing is when are the administrative heads going to stand up and say, look, enough's enough, dude. You've been in law enforcement long enough. You've seen the railroading that happens to officers. And a lot of times people want to sit there and talk shit and, well, he deserved it. No, because one day you're going to be in when that shit happened to me in Coffee City, you know how many people that were my friends that were chiefs would fucking post shit online talking shit about Coffee City?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, fucking Portillo should have known better. And guess what? Less than a fucking month or two later, guess where they're sitting? Out of a job, because TCOLE went in there too and just fucked them all up. Because TCOLE's agenda was to not have that certain person in office. They wanted somebody else. But it's not TCOLE as far as TCOLE, the administrative. It's the investigator that's with TCOLE. He's the little worm that's doing this. I'm not mad at Henderson County. I'm not upset. I think that this investigator went in there and lied to the DA's office.
100%. I would love, I'm sure your attorney has the discovery. I would love to get my hands on that, because I'm sure there's no telling what that looks like. There's no telling how, we never know what happens in grand jury. You can make anything happen in grand jury. So
yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to present all the evidence. You just have to give enough reasonable doubt that the crime was committed. But it's not the DA's fault. The DA's office didn't do the investigation. TCOLE's an investigator that is not, he has an agenda. He created a narrative and released documents, and this is just my opinion, that DWI in 16 years, 18 years in law enforcement, no one could see that. When Coffee City did my background, we couldn't see it. They couldn't see it. Driver's license department, fast fingerprints, which is a nationwide deal that they check your fingerprints against all AFIS machines. JohnJay Portillo's not in there. According to this investigator, TCOLE has a certain program where they can find stuff that no one else can see. So I'm going to probably get my ass in a world of shit for saying this. I don't give a fuck. How the fuck did KHOU get that damn information?
Well, speaking
does
of,
KHOU have access to the same system TCOLE does?
listen. Do you care if I play the video of the conversation you had with the TCOLE guy? All right, listen. I'm gonna play it. It's long, so just sit tight. It's about 6-7 minutes, but I want to play it because this is crazy. This guy calls you and acts like he had nothing to do with this investigation. He's like, "Oh, I guess, yeah, it's crazy, man. That deal over there." And then you got, and then at the very end, he says, "Yeah, that reporter. I tell you what, he's just on it." Or I'm paraphrasing, but he says something about how the reporter's quick, and I'm like, "Y'all are so full of shit. You were all in cahoots with each other, feeding this, and that's how he's quick. That's how he's finding." So sit tight. I'm going to play it. May or may not play it all the way through, but I think what he says is at the end, so we might have to play it. So just hold on.
Yes, sir. What's going on, boss man?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think there's like a delay or something. Hey, are you on speakerphone?
Yeah, I'm in my shop working on something.
Are you by yourself?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Hey, do you have an attorney for all that mess? I guess here and with the city and all that.
Yes, sir.
Coffee City. Listen, a Henderson County grand jury just indicted you and a couple of others for tampering with the PHS deal. And I'm telling you this so you can walk through and be done with it, so you don't get arrested and get your car impounded and all that other stuff. They have the indictment at the Henderson County Sheriff's Office. So if you called them and you said, you worked out a way to bond and do all that and walk through, you could probably get that done. Now, they've also given that same info to Harris County if you would prefer to go through Harris County, but the problem with that is the whole arraignment crap, because it's a different county. So what I would do if I was you is I would get a hold of my attorney, have them call Henderson County SO and try to figure out how to get you through and do the walkthrough. But it needs to be done pretty quick, because I don't want it to sit there and then it turn into a warrant, and then you're driving along one Friday afternoon and you get your car impounded. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. But what PHS are we talking about? I mean, I'm not understanding, boss.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's all I can tell you is that the indictment's there, and it has to do with tampering with a government document. That's the charge. And then there's a bond there. I don't know what that bond is, but I know that they're sealed. So like people can't they're not public.
Well, if they shared it with Harris County, Harris County, I can just imagine. So.
Yeah, no. Listen, it's in the system for Harris County to check. They didn't send it to them. So like if you decided, oh no, I'm not driving all the way over there, I'll just go through Harris County. You could do that, but I'm telling you, don't do that, because you don't want to have to sit there and wait for a week, when you could go to SO in Henderson County and just walk through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to call a bonding company in Henderson County to handle it, I guess.
I assume that's why I said call that lawyer of yours and get them working on it, because I mean I'm pretty sure nobody's doing anything. I mean, no one's going to knock on any doors or anything. Trust me, I'm not trying to do all that. But what I am wanted to do is to tell you about it up front. I'll even tell your lawyer about the same thing I just told you. And then get you to walk through so it'll be over with, so you can move on. You don't have to deal with it. It'll be taken care of. What I don't want is a week to go by and then all of a sudden they go, hey, he hadn't shown up, but the other ones have.
No, I'm getting ready to fucking, excuse my French, I'm getting ready to call the lawyer and start heading up there and get it taken care of, dude. Because I've always been straight with you, David. I never, this is a shock. I mean, I'm here trying to move on from Coffee City, and then this pops up, and it's like, shit, okay. But
absolutely. Yeah, and I don't want you to be. Yeah, exactly. I want you to get on it, as soon as you can, and then move on with it. Get it behind you and move on. But the best way to do that is don't let it sit. Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to do it today.
No,
I'm saying,
trust me, I'm on my way. I'm getting ready to call my wife to come drive me up there and.
But call first. Call them first and find out what that bond is. I don't know what the bond is.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So get your information ahead of time through your lawyer, or you can do it. I mean, you know how to do it. But get your information first so you can get it all set up. That way you can just walk right through. And I mean, no one up there knows. They have it in the system. No one down in Houston knows. It's just go do your thing and get it over with.
Yeah, because if they find out in Houston, I'm gonna be being chased around by cameras again. Shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's sealed, and we sealed it until it does not become public until you have walked through.
Okay.
You see the point? Because if it became public today, they would hit you before we would hit you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before I could even call you. That reporter is faster than anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. It's all politically motivated, but at the end of the day, I just, like I tell everybody, dude, I serve a mighty God. So we'll deal with it, Dave. I appreciate the call, man. And unfortunately, it came to this, but you have a blessed Christmas and enjoy your family and just give me time to get up there, please.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not coming. I'm telling you that. I'm telling you right now, I'm not coming. I'm not driving to Houston.
So do I have to file an E1 with y'all once I do this shit?
Say again?
Do I have to file the E1 once I do this?
Yes, you're still a licensee.
Okay.
So you do have to file it. And then there's two others that were indicted as well. And they're gonna have to do the same thing.
Man, I hate to hear that, man. Fuck.
Yeah, it's a mess up there, bro. I'm not lying to you, man. That I don't know.
I don't know who I pissed off, but damn, I didn't mean to piss anybody off. Shit.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But yeah, take care of that. Move on. It's look through your windshield, not your rearview mirror, kind of a thing.
Okay, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the courtesy, man, and I'll get a handle, bro. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That dude's sitting there acting like he's doing you some kind of favor. that was the biggest load of shit that anybody on this planet who has a brain, after hearing everything we've talked about, can listen to and say, yeah. I mean, that's dirty. That's dirty. And let me tell you what, this got put out in the news big time. I mean, this was massive, dude. This was all over. And,
yeah, I'm famous. Hell, even my family members in California are calling me.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
and because of that, and I believe maybe the way don't take this the wrong way, but just the way you responded to them, between those two things, one, it's in the news, TCOLE's name is being mentioned everywhere, and probably the way that you, just the way you talk to them, they probably don't like it. They had to make an example and say, well, we can't walk away from this big ass story empty-handed. We got to find something here, right? Because they couldn't get you on the fact that you were working in Houston. They couldn't get you on the fact that you had 50 officers. They had to find, well, he didn't put a couple things in his application over his, damn near 20-year law enforcement career. And so we're going to go ahead and indict him for that, so we don't look like we're not doing our job. Let me tell you,
according to him, it's not TCOLE.
Yeah, I mean, he's sitting there saying, like, well, and that was the TCOLE investigator.
Yeah, he's the one who submitted the stuff to the grand jury.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here like, you're that was dirty, bro. Sitting there saying, oh, wow, man, it's crazy up there. And I don't know how that reporter's finding all this information out. How about your employee? Your freaking coworker is probably calling the constable's office, and everybody's just putting. That's how the reporter's getting all this shit. If TCOLE's not talking to the reporter themselves.
Yeah, I think the investigation, and that's the thing. You're releasing an ongoing investigation. I mean, damn well if you request documents or anything on an ongoing investigation, the first thing that you're told, because I've written these letters, is I appreciate your request, but at this time it's an ongoing investigation and we cannot release any information. So TCOLE, we know TCOLE found that DWI, however they did it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good point.
If you found it and no one else did, and the media got it, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to say, hey, our investigator must have fucking released this shit, because how else would it? Because in 16, 18 years, no one, the only other persons that knew about it were the chiefs or the agencies that I work with that I disclosed it to.
Unbelievable, man. Let me ask you this, because one of the questions that was going around, and they put it on the news too, was they made a big deal about everybody. Like, they showed all these documents of like different criminal offenses for different cops that were listed on TCOLE applications, and everybody made a big deal and said, well, there's a bunch of criminals working up there. What's that all about?
Well, in law enforcement, and even back in the day, in the 80s and stuff, being a cop isn't easy. You're held to a higher standard, which is good, because we hold ourselves to that standard too. Some officers made bad decisions, at home, may have gotten in a domestic situation. They go through their process, they get found not guilty, and then they return back to work because they're found not guilty. Just because you're charged with something doesn't mean you're guilty.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, and if you're found not guilty and TCOLE reinstates your license, that means you're in good standing. So if I read a document, and I've read there's several people that applied with my agencies, when I read the complaint and I saw what kind of person they were, I didn't hire them. This notion that anybody could get a job at Coffee City as long as they had a pulse is bullshit. We declined over 50% of the applicants that applied with our agency. And I even gave those applications to TCOLE and says, look, this is all the ones that we denied. This is the ones that we hired. And, you can't hold somebody hostage because someone filed a false charge on them. An ex-wife got mad and then, this and that. He's found not guilty, dude. Who am I to say that he's guilty? All I can do is read the facts and make the best judgment that I can. We didn't have no criminals working for us. Because if they were criminals and they had a bad record or domestic violence or something like sexual assault or something, TCOLE would never have licensed them.
And that's my thing. I was about to say, sounds like TCOLE needs to do some reform. Because if you got investigators going around to departments telling police chiefs, hey, I don't think you should have hired this guy. Well, he's got an active license. Or this guy had a family violence charge and we reinstated his license. But yeah, we're going to put on the news that you hired him and that's a problem. I mean, sounds like TCOLE needs to make some changes instead of pushing this off on everybody else, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
You have an elected constable over in the Beaumont area where he literally beat his wife to about 2 inches from death. Beat the living fucking daylights out of that poor lady. He went to court, made agreements with the courts. A year goes by and they reinstate his license.
Wow.
But that's okay for him, right? Because that's their buddy. That's their It's okay. You have the guy from Jacinto City, and that's where Jared Seek's story comes in. Jared Seek was a whistleblower. Jared Seek saw the mayor of Jacinto City driving a police car to the airport and started following her and documenting stuff. He gets fired and started getting targeted. He's the one who reported the chief at Jacinto City for not even having an application on file. They just hired the guy, says, you're the chief. He says, okay, good guy. Now you're the chief. They didn't go after them, but because that's their friend.
Yeah.
You can't have an organization that oversees law enforcement that picks and chooses what they do. There's countless. I have lots of letters from TCOLE to officers that didn't put stuff on their application, and it says we conduct an investigation because of a complaint. We noticed that in your personal history statement you left off certain things and there's inconsistencies. Please correct these inconsistencies because in the future, if this continues, you'll be reprimanded. They were given the opportunity to fix their application, add in the stuff that they did not put in there, and they were able to continue their career.
But you also know how many people, how many personal history statements that I found where people blatantly lied. Like, I know they lied. We confirmed that they lied. Did I turn those over to TCOLE? Nobody said we're going to start indicting every application that we receive that has a lie on it. Never have I ever heard, dude. I had never heard of that. I didn't know that was a thing up until I heard about Coffee City, and that's why I got curious. And of course, TCOLE started fishtailing. Oh, we don't have those records, but I'd sure love to see them because they're somewhere. My guess is there's probably not very many.
I don't think.
And
I
that's
think the
and that's
ones
why
that they really
don't want to give
focus
them to me.
on is because it's a personal or political agenda.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's all it is. Because if you were to ask the people that hired me, and you've been in positions, how many times has an officer called and says, hey, I'm going to leave this department, I need a job? Come on, bro, we got you.
Yeah.
Because you've known them for 15 fucking years. You know they're great officers. You know you've already heard the shit that's going on in the other department. A new chief, a new constable, a new this. They got to jump ship before, at the constable's office I was at, I was written up 12 times in a day, dude. For bullshit. It's like because I worked too many hours or I submitted too much evidence in a case.
Well, look what they did to Chris Witzel, man. That you get a letter from the county attorney from his previous agency saying, hey, this is a good dude. He just pissed off some people. He's a great guy. Hire him. You get that letter, which was part of your background investigation. You conduct the rest of your background investigation. Somebody at TCOLE, and this has already been established through his own words, somebody at TCOLE was friends with the chief from his previous agency. And so, buddy, hey, keep an eye on this guy for me. That should not be allowed. If an officer has an active license, okay, if it's active, I'm not saying it's right or wrong that it's active. I'm saying if it's active, that's as a police chief, that's not your problem. That's not your call. All you know is it's active, and legally, morally, and ethically, you can hire this guy. So if it's active and you hire him, who does TCOLE think that they are running around the state pulling favors for their buddies? And that's what they did with Chris. He pissed somebody off, and they showed up at Coffee City. That is, it goes back to what you said, man. Political motivation, political hits. And it happened, dude. What's crazy, we've seen it all on a national scale, especially the last several days since the inauguration. We've seen the BS. We've seen what they've done to Donald Trump simply because, and listen, I used to not be the biggest Donald Trump fan, but once I started seeing what was happening to him, It changed my mind. I saw the proof. And people don't like him because he stands up and tells it like it is. And, you know, you see it on a national scale. So, and then you have it here on the lower levels, on the state levels, and then in the municipal levels. And it just kind of goes unnoticed. People think you're crazy when you talk about it. And I mean,
they can't. People always say, "Man, but how is that possible? How is it?"
Yeah.
I said, "Dude, you don't understand. When you're dealing with an agencies, and you get it's not necessarily the agencies; it's the people that work for them that just get this. They get this bone like a pit bull and don't want to let go. No matter, common sense can just tell you, like, hey, dude, it's not a fucking big deal. It's not like John Portillo said he had 3 doctrines from Harvard and, and put it on his app. These are just things that if you were to go look at all my other apps, they're on the other apps. Because as a background, you have to go look at everyone's application that you submitted while you worked there. And that's how they found everything was like, oh, look, he has this, but he didn't put it here. Oh, look, it says he lived there, but he didn't put it here. A lot of officers, and this is where TCOLE needs to come in and say, we're going to have a class. It's going to be the class on the PHS. Maybe we need to do this in the academy. And we can say, look, make sure that anything that's been on any other application goes on the next one. Because if TCOLE just had the form online, you could just add shit to it.
Right.
Instead of trying to remember. Because you're not going to remember everything. That's
what should. You're absolutely right, bro. That's what should happen. TCOLE needs to reform their own shit. But if they reformed, then they wouldn't, they wouldn't have the ability to get out there and
target people.
Target people. It would be much harder. But you're right. Anytime you apply at an agency, that agency should be required to go online and put it in there. And you know how much shit that would eliminate? My previous police chief, I'm going to call him out because he's an asshole, Rex Marks at Pilot Point Police Department, the guy that fired me, that I ended up getting fired 8 weeks later because he was extremely unethical. I got his personal history statement. And you know how many places that he put on his application versus the places he actually applied for? I mean, there was a big discrepancy. And I don't see him in handcuffs.
No, because he hasn't pissed the right person off.
It's sickening, bro.
If you're going to do this, you better build a jail just for officers, because I can honestly tell you, I don't think there's one person in this industry, in this profession that we are in, that has a perfect application. Because, they even went as far as say, oh, well, he lived at this place in Laredo back in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, really? Like, fuck.
And you know who that falls on? It falls on the investigator doing the background to the best of their ability. If they do take your DUI out of Florida, for example, all these people did all these backgrounds and it never came up because you thought it was expunged, or it was expunged, whatever clerical error has occurred. I mean, it's on the investigator to do the background, but here's what people don't understand. You're dealing with human beings. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. It doesn't matter what the hell you're doing. There's a reason why doctors carry malpractice insurance, because anytime you have humans involved in anything,
we're going to make mistakes.
There's going to be mistakes. Now, I understand there's a difference between a mistake and doing something shady on purpose. I get that. But there has to be, and it just goes back to what we said there, why would we want to change anything? Or I say we, why would they want to change anything, TCOLE, if that meant they wouldn't be able to, run around throwing people under the bus and doing shady investigations? Of course, they're not going to change it. They're not going to reform it. Everybody knows TCOLE needs to change things. And it's, I don't know, man. I thought they were going to work on it. I thought it was something that they were actually going to do, especially with the whole Sunrise Project or whatever that was.
Well, they gave TCOLE the more ability to go after officers.
Yeah.
And TCOLE, they got good intentions but bad results. And I understand the need for oversight and stuff like that, but help us become better officers, help us become better leaders, and help us, make this profession better.
Yeah.
Weaponizing yourself to go after people politically is not cool. It's just not fair. And no one in this profession does it because of the pay. We do it because it's a calling. And
Well, John, they may flag my name in their system if, God forbid, I go apply anywhere else. They'll probably be showing right up after this podcast.
well, that's just
I'll be indicted next week.
They do flag your file, because I'll tell you, every last one of these officers with Coffee City, anytime they go apply, when all this shit happened, they're applying places. TCOLE sent out a letter says, do not hire anyone from Coffee City.
Yeah.
Do not hire anyone from Coffee City. They're under investigation. And when the officers would call and say, hey, am I under investigation? No, the agency is. Well, I applied here and you called over. I never called.
Yeah, a
Yes,
lot of good officers couldn't get jobs because of that.
Yeah, because you put a vague letter saying anyone from Coffee City may or may not be under investigation.
Yeah.
And that's the new norm now. If you don't want someone to get hired with it, and agencies do this shit too. I've done background checks on people that says, hey, this person's under investigation. For what? Well, I can't tell you because it's an active investigation.
Yeah, we can't hire you. Sorry.
3 years later, they still don't know. They're still using that. Well, there's an active investigation on them. For what?
Yeah.
If you're going to say someone's under investigation, at least let the officer know what it's for so he can put it on his app or tell the agency what it's for. But that's just a common tool that people use to blackball people.
And what's crazy is, man, some cops are some of the biggest liars I've ever met. So the problem is you go to apply somewhere, and then that investigator at the agency you're trying to get a job with calls the other or shows up, especially if they're in proximity. We know how that works. If they're in a geographical region, they'll drive. And the backroom conversations that happen. Well, I can't really tell you this officially, but this guy's a real big piece of shit. Now listen, and they all because they don't like him. Not because they're not a good person, not because they're a horrible officer, but because there was some kind of personal conflict involved. And there's a lot of good cops, I can attest to it, who didn't get hired at places because other cops are liars. And they say, Chase Berryhill at Bullard told me, well, Justin, I always go back to this story because it's one of my biggest examples. It says, well, they got this documented. I said, I don't give a shit. Give me that piece of paper. I took a piece of paper and I drew Mickey Mouse. I said, put that in the file. I said, guess what? Mickey Mouse is now documented. Come on, bro. Anybody can document anything.
I mean, there's an instance.
Doesn't make it true.
To the constable's office, I hired a young kid. Actually, was the brother of a deputy that I patrolled with. Man, fucking good, top of the line fucking officer. It was his brother. He was with another constable's office, and he was being accused of violating somebody's rights or some shit like that. He came and applied with me, and I was like, yeah, man, let me go do your background. I personally did his background because, one, his brother, come right here, bro. Went over and started doing his investigation on him. Went into that department. They treated me like shit. Had an appointment at 8 o'clock. I showed up at 7:45. Chief of police treated me like shit. As soon as I walk in, their chief walked out from the constable's office. Says, can I help you? So I'm here to do a background on so-and-so. Oh, man, I wouldn't hire that motherfucker. Hot damn shit.
Yep.
That motherfucker's a piece of shit. And I'm recording. I said, well, okay. I said, well, what did he do? Man, we're going to indict him on violation of people's rights and this and that. I said, hold on a second. I need to see that file. What do you mean? I need to see the file. You just said he's under investigation for civil rights and all this. I need to see the file like right fucking now. He's like, no, well, what do you mean? I said, show me the fucking file.
And at that point, I'm already going to get pissed off because I know he's full of shit. And he's like, well, go talk to this guy. I said, no, bro, you're the chief. You just said this about this officer. Either you show it to me in writing or there's going to be a hell of a lawsuit because you just defamed this officer. Well, let's step back. I didn't mean to say it like that. I said, it's recorded. It's recorded. So another captain rolls out and goes, hey, what's going on, chief? I'm like, this dude, whoever the fuck this idiot is, because he was in plain clothes, just told me that this young man's under investigation for violation of civil rights. He's like, bullshit. I said, did you not just tell me that, chief? He's like, you misspoke. I misspoke. I said, no. So they finally got me and put me in another room and had me there waiting. And I finally got up and said, you know what? Fuck y'all, dude. Y'all gonna play games? Y'all want to defame this young man? And then finally, another captain that I knew walked out. He goes, what's up, Portillo? I said, man, you gonna help me or I'm gonna leave? He goes, I'll help you. Went back. I said, tell me what's going on with this young man. I said, show me the video. He goes, I'll show you the video. He shows me the video. Long story short, walks up to the car, asks the guy to step out because he was doing like 90 and a 40. The guy wouldn't do it, so he forcibly removed him, handcuffed him. They said he violated his rights. I was like, dude, the guy was non-compliant. You know, I said, looks good to me. He goes, yeah, we did an investigation and he's okay. A couple other chain of command walks in and I'm like, I need y'all to tell me this right now. If you were me, would you hire this young man? They all said yes. And I said, well, why is that stupid motherfucker over there telling lies about this officer? Oh, man, that's just the way he is. And I said, y'all need to be careful. Ended up, I hired him. He stayed over with me until he got his Soho hearing cleared up. And then he went back to go work for the sheriff's department. But that's just the kind of shit that we deal with as officers, that people just talk out of their ass, dude. And I always held people accountable, like, show me the proof. I had one chief in Harris County tell me, I'm not showing you shit. He'd send it to me in an email. I sent it to the same investigator. And says, look, this guy's refusing to do the background with me because he says that I'm not entitled to it. I want to file an official complaint. Oh, no, you're just taking it the wrong way. I go, it's funny how y'all just want to penalize certain people and not others. So this is what's wrong with the system. They're only going to weaponize TCOLE so they can do their own shit to the people they want to do it to.
Yeah, man. And I'm sure we could sit here and swap stories all day, dude. I mean, it's absurd the amount of things that happen behind the scenes, and then people just release it and put it out there. And we live in such a information flowing, society that people just accept it for face value. They're like, oh, well, shit. I mean, I'll be honest. I told you earlier. I mean, when this stuff first came out about Coffee City, I was like, oh boy, that's not good. And I started talking to our mutual friend about it. And then he said, look, I mean, this was a year ago. He said, John may want to talk to you. And so that's when, I reached out to you, and here we are today. But people just accept this stuff for face value. When an officer has in their file, these other small-brained investigators at these other agencies just accept it for what it is. Look into it. Cops are some of the most, what I did. Dude, cops are some of the most small-minded individuals I have ever.
Well, the cops want to do the less work they have to do in order to reach a goal.
Yes.
Cops are lazy.
Crazy.
And the thing is.
And that's why you got people out here who go to prison for crimes they didn't commit. And then you got other people out here not going to prison for crimes they didn't commit because of nothing but pure laziness.
Yeah, and just like in my deal, and I've seen it in several other cases, you get these investigators that get this one-track mind.
Right. Nope.
They already have their decision in their head. And they don't want to go investigate further because it's going to prove that what they're thinking is wrong. That's why you have a lot of innocent people sitting in fucking TDC, because officers didn't want to do their job, or they had a personal reason why they wanted this certain person in jail. And
You know, I've been told a lot, just take the deal, surrender your license, and all this will go away. I didn't do nothing wrong. Okay, I did nothing wrong. I know for a fact that there's things wrong in this investigation, and if I have to wait for it to come out, I have to wait for it to come out.
Well, there's shit we're not even able to talk about here that I know that you requested we not talk about. If we could keep talking about that, then I mean, there's more to this than what we're able to say here today. And this whole thing just blows my mind. And once I started looking into it, once TCOLE started stonewalling me, once I was talking to our mutual friend, once I started talking, I said, man, like if you're willing to do this, let's do this, because I don't know. I assume a lot of people are going to watch this, and that's fine. But the fact is, I can sit here and say, I feel like we had genuine conversation, and we're not sitting here trying to blow smoke or paint something that it's not. I mean, these are just the facts of things that happen all the time that the general public, people that aren't cops, they don't know this kind of stuff happens. And the cops that do know it happens, they just shut their mouth and deal with it.
But you can't get the full story on a 10-second soundbite.
Nope.
And the problem I have, and the reason I wanted to do this was this. They made an accusation against me that I was charging my reserves a fee each month for me to hold their commission. Bullshit.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that. You're right.
Okay. Never once. Okay. They made that accusation on the news. This is why I told the news the other day, watch what the fuck you put on the news, because I'm going to sue your ass like Trump did NBC. Now, of course, my attorney ain't happy with it because he's like, dude, stop pissing people off. But, dude, at what fucking point do we keep being someone's doormat?
Yeah.
You know, we're cops. The only reason I kept my mouth shut for this whole time was because I trusted the justice system to do what the justice system is supposed to do.
Oh, that's a powerful statement, bro.
Okay. Now I'm at the and excuse my friend, like I said, excuse my French, but fuck this shit, dude. I have to get this story out there because you have 50 officers that are losing their fucking houses, dude. That are losing their marriages because they can't pay a goddamn bill because y'all bitch asses are playing politics with their lives.
Y'all had one commit suicide, did you not?
Yeah.
Y'all had I remember. I know who it is.
Great fucking guy.
Rest his soul.
Fuck you. And I'm going to tell you, fuck you to whoever did this to these young cops.
Yeah.
Because what you did is wrong. And I don't care if people don't like me. I don't give a fuck if Henderson County tries to go find more shit on me. But it's not Henderson County because I know Jenny Palmer. I know the investigators. I know them. They're not fucking cold-hearted sons of bitches like that investigator David from fucking TCOLE. And David, you heard he lied. He lied on the recording.
Oh yeah, he was lying through his teeth, man. He was trying to be the good guy, act like number one, he didn't have anything to do with it. Number
he's
two,
the one who did the investigation.
Yeah, number two, he's doing you a favor by letting you know, go take care of this. Yeah, that was sickening to hear, man. And that's the thing.
Another accusation was that our warrant squad was illegal. Bullshit. Warrant squad, they were full-time people getting paid to track down our open warrants. You don't have to sit in the city to do it. You can be satellite. You have people from New York that come that track down people in Houston. They're warrants. You don't have to drive around. We don't have the budget. It was a smart move to do everything remotely by phone.
And that's the thing. It was a unconventional thing. And the problem is with law enforcement, nobody wants to progress. Nobody wants to do unconventional. Well, we just do it this way because it's always been done this way. And
look at this. People talk shit about me having 50 officers, right? But just look at the Uvalde situation, dude. When they didn't have enough cops.
Yeah.
Okay? Even if they would have had one or two extra guys, lives could have been saved. But if you go and look now, my little project that I was doing in Coffee City is being utilized across the state of Texas now. Now you have a lot of these small agencies that saying, you know what, Coffee City had a good fucking plan. Let's get reserves too, so we can stick them in these schools on a daily basis so our fucking kids are safe. You have agencies now with 20 to 30 reserves working 1 day a week, 1 day a month to help cover the schools, because our number one priority is keeping our children safe and giving them a safe, positive environment so they don't have to worry about being killed.
Yeah.
You're getting free security. Do the math. 50 officers, 1 day a week, that's 12 hours a day. That's 600 hours a week, a month in free patrol. That's $220,000 a year that we're saving the taxpayers where they don't have to come out of pocket. Makes sense.
Yep.
So, and we didn't provide uniforms. We didn't provide guns, anything. They paid for everything. They paid their own gas. They paid their own uniforms or everything, their own training. It was a win-win situation for Coffee City. But now, it wasn't okay for Portillo because he's a piece of shit, loudmouth. But now that he's out of the picture, let's take his little fucking idea and use it in statewide now.
And now that city doesn't even have a police department.
No, the city. I just spoke to a young lady there the other day. No police. The hotel has turned back into the crack haven of Henderson County. There's crackheads living under the bridge. There's a lady that walks into traffic every day high as a kite. You have vagrants walking around the city high as fuck. You have an increase in crime. The sheriff's department doesn't have the resources. They don't have the resources. So they did a very injustice to the citizens of Coffee City by doing this. You didn't have to shut the police department down. You could have said, just came after me and said, Chief, you're fired. See you later. Kept the guys there and maintained the integrity of the city by having officers there. The one guy that they were going to appoint as chief of police, when I was asked to step down, or I was what they call fired, but I had already resigned. After I resigned, they fired me. When I stepped down, they were appointing Lonnie Hicks as the chief of police. Well, then David decided to convince the mayor otherwise and say, just shut the department down for now. They shut the department down. Lonnie was so pissed off, he sent a message to David and to the mayor, says, y'all are pieces of shits. You lied to us and you cost us our jobs. Well, guess what happened to Lonnie?
Yeah, he got indicted. Yeah.
Why? Because he spoke up. So you're trying to censor us and silence us because we speak up against your stupidity? He didn't need to be. You know what they indicted Lonnie on? They indicted Lonnie because he smoked a joint in 1972.
Really? And didn't put that on the application?
No, but once again, he didn't, on his application, and I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. On his application, his dad died. When he called me and said, Chief, I'm leaving the county, I need a job. I said, you're hired, bro. Come on. Bring your application with you. We'll get everything pushed through and let's go. He goes, well, I can't because my dad just is about to die. I said, well, just get an application, send it to me so I can start your background. Send me your authority to release. I'll start your background. I saw, because at his application with the constable's office in Harris County, he put on there, I smoked weed in the military in 1972 on my birthday and got in trouble. I knew it. It's on his other application. But his wife filled out the new one and didn't even put it on there. They got him for that.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
How fucking petty is that, dude?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, man. They wanted to make an example out of Coffee City because it was out there. It was too far
too good
out
not to do something. Not to make an example.
They could not do anything. I don't want to use double negative there, but they couldn't. They wouldn't be able to let it go because then everybody would have raised hell and said, "You're telling me y'all didn't do anything about this?" So they didn't have anything illegal to go off of. So they started picking apart these personal history statements, PHS. And that's just, I'll tell you what, man, I could have had a lot of applicants arrested over the years for things that they accidentally omitted or purposely omitted. And I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing. So, man,
it's a new thing in law enforcement. So any law enforcement officers watching,
better be careful.
Shit,
That'd make me not want to apply anywhere. It's almost like a polygraph. You know, when you go sit down and take a polygraph, and you're like, and they're asking you these broad questions. Have you ever committed any undetected crime? And you're sitting there like, oh shit, did I? Oh,
dude, I've taken polygraph on the past too for employment, and I passed it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, how do you pass the polygraph if it, you know? Obviously, it wasn't important enough to make me feel guilty about not mentioning it.
I got a buddy that's a state trooper. He failed his polygraph. This dude is, I mean, like an altar boy. Okay, he failed his polygraph because they said he was deceptive on something about drugs. This guy ain't never done drugs a day in his life. They said, well, you failed, so come back in 6 months. Here's my question. I always ask this. I'm sure I've talked about it on the podcast before. So you think he lied here 6 months later? Hey, yeah, come apply for us. And he passed. And now he's a freaking state trooper. What is that? What kind of process is that? If you think he's lying here, why hire him here? Our system is, I mean, it's broken all the way around, right? But even on this level, when we're talking about how cops get hired and fired and shifted from one department to another, it's broken. It's totally broken, and it needs some help.
Well, the mindset is this: they want you to hire on with the department and stay there whether you're happy or not.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is not everybody flourishes under all leaderships. Like my guys flourished under me because I was there. I was actively participating every day in day-to-day operations, and I held them to a higher standard. Yeah, maybe he went to go work for Chief Rodriguez and the dude just couldn't fucking get his head out of his ass, or he didn't have the right leadership, or his chain of command under Chief Rodriguez was good or bad, that didn't know how to nurture him and build him up. You know, it's a reflection of the chief, how their officers react. That's why we didn't have no complaints on my reserves, all 50 of them, because I was actively in their lives every day, checking them on scene, checking everything, holding them accountable. Some people just need that extra attention to become great. It's like a football player. You got some football players suck on one team, they move to another team under a different coaching staff, and they're fucking superstars. It's the same thought process and mindset for law enforcement. Dude.
But they take these administrators, they get so offended when like you're a traitor, you're an automatic traitor, and that's why it's hard for a lot of good cops, man, to get hired places, and it's just a messed up system. But
it's an ego system, dude.
I have to say, I applaud you. Some people may listen to this and be like, "Oh, he's rough." I mean, I will say, dude. I mean, whether I agree or don't agree, I do have to say I applaud you for, the way you are and being just overly honest and, saying what's on your mind and speaking your truth. And so, I commend you for that. And I hope that you find yourself successful in this political legal battle that you're fighting. And I hope that people listen to this podcast and their eyes are open and say, wow, there's so much more to this story. And there's even more, again, that we're not able to talk about.
There's so much to this, dude. We've been on this for an hour or two talking. And
we're pushing 3 hours.
Yeah, we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg on this one, dude. And once everything's over and I can actually talk about everything.
And we may do it again.
People are going to be like, motherfucker, dude. Because this isn't just about JohnJay Portillo, dude. This is about the profession of law enforcement. And we have to do something to protect the integrity of our officers, and that means providing them with the right resources that they need to do their job, and so they know that they're going to be okay no matter who comes against them. We have to do something about the TCOLE situation.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think a lot of officers that are retired right now are saying, dude, never in our lives did we ever think this was going to be. An application is just an application so you can kind of figure out, who that person is. It's a tool you use to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And if someone messes up on accident or doesn't, doesn't expungement have to be disclosed? Not according to the penal code.
Right.
Because if I mention somebody's name and say they were arrested for this, this, and this, I know that for a fact, and they was expunged, that's a Class B misdemeanor. So that reporter with KHOU, when I did that interview and he disclosed the arrest and stuff of one of my lieutenants, and I told him straight out, whoa, I don't even want to comment on that. That's expunged. We can't even talk about it. He kind of looked at me like, yeah, motherfucker, you disclosed that to me. It's an expunged thing.
Yeah.
So who's going to hold him accountable?
Well, it doesn't fit the narrative, man. It doesn't fit the narrative they're trying to spin. So probably nobody. But all right, John, thanks for coming on, bro. Like I said, I wish you the best of luck.
And, hopefully this puts kind of some light on the situation. And like you said, just leave it in God's hands and pray that one day I'll be back in our profession, whether it's as a patrol deputy or as a chief or whatever. But I'm not going to stop fighting.
We may see you in uniform again, man, and good luck to you.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Thank you for joining the Failing Justice podcast today. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with John. He is like I said, a very rough around the edges guy, but tells you like it is. And I hope that some of you find value in listening to this conversation. And we surely appreciate you joining in. And tune in next time. We're trying to do one podcast a month. I'm very busy. I have some other businesses and things that I do. This is something that I do for the good of the legal system all the way around. So I keep it going at least once a month. And so thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
It's not just an organization, it's a call to action. Join us on this journey, satisfaction. Dismantle barriers, build with passion. For a future where justice is not a fraction. Yeah, failing justice. Yeah.